Okay, welcome everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, October 13th, 2015. This is City Council's regular meeting. We are located at the Veterans Memorial Hall. It's starting here at 6 p.m. Thank you. For the record, we do have a quorum. All members are present with the absence of Councilmember Makowiecki. We will call the meeting to order. And if you'll please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. And if Mr. Smuckler, Councilmember Smuckler, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thanks, Noah. Closed session report. We have no reportable action at this time. And mayor and council members' reports and announcements. Just wanted to make a couple of brief announcements. We have advisory board vacancies for 2016. We have one planning commission vacancy coming up. We have two vacancies on Public Works Advisory Board. We have one vacancy on our General Plan, Local Coastal Plan Advisory Committee. And for Citizens Oversight and Finance Committee, we have 3 positions. And on our T-bid, we have 4 vacancies open. And then Rec and Park, we have 3 vacancies. And City Clerk or Dana, do you have, can you comment on the time, or Mr. Buckingham, the time in which we were scheduled, those announcements went out and everything?
Yeah, I'm not sure when the announcement went out, but applications are being accepted through Friday, October 30th, and interviews will be held on November 11th.
Thank you very much. Thanks. That covers our advisory board vacancies. I just wanted to put a plug in for our Harbor Festival, kind of a change in how we've done our Harbor Festival. Very successful. Went down there for the setup. Has received a lot of positive feedback for the result of that. So just want to put a shout out for the organizers of that event, and just thanks very much for that. Also, our water crew. We had a water main break last week, and as it appears, we may have another one, or do have another one. But last week, our water crew was out working 24 hours, putting that back in service so we can get water back to the city. So that was last week sometime when we had one in North Moore Bay. So shout out to our crew for doing a great job. And then League of California Cities. Members of council and staff went to the League of California Cities annual conference. It's a 3-day conference, and I'll just highlight a couple of brief ones. I won't go into all it's an opportunity for member cities, such as Morro Bay, to participate in that. There's many learning sessions that go on. I also sat in on the Coastal Cities Issue Group, so I'll just give a brief synopsis on that for the rest of council. The Coastal Cities Issue Group is a group of coastal cities regarding Coastal Commission issues. And as one of the notes, the Coastal Commission will be holding a Sea Level Rise webinar from 1 to 2 p.m. October 22nd. The webinar, the information to access that webinar is on the Coastal Commission website. I've sent that off to our Community Development Director. Hopefully we can encourage our GPAC and any others that would be interested in attend or listening in on that webinar. And then there's a local government workshop from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. November 6th, and that's located in Half Moon Bay. So that's a full-on workshop for sea level rise. And then our California Coastal Trail Association, they're planning first annual Coastal Trail Conference held in Southern California. More details to be announced for that. And one of the other elements from the issues group was SB 379, which is general plan safety element opportunity for grant funds, and just a real brief synopsis on some of the coastal issues discussion for that. And then with that, let's see, on my notes, I think that'll conclude my remarks, and then I'll turn it over for the rest of council. Christine, do you have any announcements?
Yes, thank you. I was also appreciate the ability to attend the League of California Cities meeting. We went through, they had a lot of great workshops. They did a lot of workshops where they would do 15-minute workshops or 20-minute workshops in one setting. Maybe you'd see 3 things at once in an hour, which was great because it's all about sharing. And I guess sharing is a nicer word than stealing from one another, but that's what we do. We don't reinvent the wheel in many cases, but we find best practices from one community and transfer to ours. So that was a big benefit to hear a lot of things happening at once. There are over 200 cities in California, so almost all of them send someone. It's a lot of networking for us to other cities, coastal cities, as the mayor read. We have a lot in common with cities that are coastal. We also have a lot in common with cities in our county. We don't often get to see folks in our county, but we get to interact with our peers and their staff as well. So we have shared and common interests in our county. So that's another benefit. So I enjoy that time of getting to know folks. And then there's also a large expo where you have different people who sell things to cities, because we're also a market for folks. So we're able to interact and talk to people who have things to offer and consider implementing them in our city. So there's a lot of positive reasons for going. And then also it's nice to get meet other people that share the same concerns that you do. So it was a benefit to attend, and I appreciate that. The other thing I want to mention is, again, I just have to say my thanks to the water crew for getting things back online, and they're busy working again. I also want to point out that we did blanket the city as much as we could with information, and this was a test of some of our new ways of communicating. Our Facebook page, I did notice that as soon as we put things on the Facebook page, especially families that I know in my area, tagged a million other people and said, hey, there's no water, or heads up to this. So that was something, we put something out, and 15 minutes later, it doubled and tripled and quadrupled the amount of people who knew. So that was an example of how well that did. And I think if you go back and read that stream, it's really interesting to how many different people reached out and were touched by that. So it's never perfect. And, certainly some people woke up and turned on a dry tap. But I think if you go back and see, we tried our best to get the word out in an appropriate way for the level of emergency that it was. So fortunately, it was maybe no pun intended, but a dry run for something that perhaps may be a little more significant in the future. So I appreciate the effort there as well. One thing I wanted just to mention is there is do we mention WRF workshop? Is someone else going to do that? Because I have one more announcement.
Yep, WRF workshop.
Should I let that, is someone mentioning it?
Doesn't matter, go for it. Yeah.
Oh, I should, okay. Well, let me go to Facebook and pull it up, which is an okay thing to do here at my council meeting, a public information. There is a workshop this Saturday. And the reason it's on a Saturday is because we had a lot of requests for Saturday workshops versus an evening workshop. So if you're one of those people who always wishes we would have more weekends, here you go. It's this Saturday, which is October 17, and it is a community workshop open to the public. Oh, sorry, folks, my screen stopped on me. I could turn this over. Sorry, folks. Here it goes. Oh, my goodness. Here, my fingers are moving faster than my brain, but not faster than my lips. Okay, Saturday, October 17. It's going to be in this room, the Veterans Hall, and it's a community conversation to talk about project delivery alternatives. So what that means, I'll ask Mr. Lavick to explain maybe a little bit more so you know what a project delivery alternative is, but I want to give you the pertinent information. This Saturday, October 17, it's offered at 2 times. It's the same information. So if you can come in the morning, great. If you can't come in the afternoon, it will be the same workshop presented. Of course, the questions from the public may be different, but that's okay. The first time is 10 a.m. to noon, and the second time is 2:30 to 4:30, both in the Vets Hall, both this Saturday. And Mr. Lavick or Mr. Buckingham, if you could just do a quick explanation of what a WRF project delivery alternative would be so people have an idea of what the discussion will be, because it will be specific to this particular portion of the project.
Correct. Project delivery is how we can build the WF project, whether it's conventional, we prepare a design, put it out for bid, contractors bid on that design, and the low bid is selected, to design build, where we put out more of a concept and contractor engineering firms team up and bid on providing a WRF project that meets our performance requirements. And there's different flavors of that in between. Mike Nunley, one of our local experts in project delivery, and our program manager will be conducting that workshop, and folks can come out and ask questions and learn more about how the different ways in California that you can deliver large projects.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. If you have further questions, I'm sure people can reach out to any staff member, any council member in advance to Saturday's meeting. So if you can attend, please do. And the last thing is, this is going out to the business community. I think I want to just make a plug for it. We're looking for new and creative ways to sponsor and afford all of our terrific rec programs. And this one in particular, I wanted to just remind folks that you or your business can be a youth sports sponsor. And you get your name of the business on the back of the jerseys for basketball season. And if you think it's no big deal, I can tell you that as a parent of a child who's played basketball every single year, those jerseys get worn everywhere. They're worn all day of the day they have the game. They're worn from subsequent years. He will still put it on until it, no longer fits him. And that means, your business is going around town. I think the kid's cute, my kid. It's up to you to think that. But in other words, it's a really sweet way to get your business noticed in the community, and they will wear the shirts forever. So at $90, it's a very reasonable and feel-good marketing tool for your business, large or small. So please do consider it. And if you would like that opportunity, you can talk to Karen Sweeney at the Rec Department, 772-6281, or give me a call and I'll give you the details. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Christine. John?
Thank you. I also had the opportunity to go to sunny San Jose, where it was raining when we first got there, and then actually had some sunshine, but it was nice to see rain for a while. I spent a lot of time in the financial seminars and picked up a number of ideas, a couple of which I will share with you. Some of you that are as old as I am may recall redevelopment areas and agencies where a city determined that there was an area within the city that was determined to be a blighted area, or an area that basically needed to be improved economically. And you could apply for state funds, and unfortunately, a number of years ago, that program was discontinued. There is a new opportunity coming down the pike. They're called EIDs, Economic Improvement Districts, and they are quite complicated, but I now have a binder about this thick of information to review, and there are opportunities for funds, although they're limited, for not only blighted areas, but also for entire cities. So I'll be looking into that and bringing information to the council regarding that. And I heard a very interesting presentation from the folks from both Stockton and Vallejo regarding the bankruptcy of a city. And the title of it was How to Determine You're Going Bankrupt Before You Do, in essence. And they presented some very useful tools that cities can utilize that are not difficult to use, that allow you to assess your city, determine if there are certain indicators that you fit, that indicate you might be moving in that direction. I'm not suggesting that. Please don't go home and say, Mr. Heading said that we are going broke. But it's a very useful tool in looking at the longer-term strategic financial position of a city. And so I'll be sharing that with our newly created finance committee as well. So it was a pleasure to be able to attend a number of those sessions. As well, just a reminder, we now in our county have a drug take-back program where you can bring everything, including your Schedule 2, 3, and 4, as well as 5 narcotics, to any pharmacy within the county. You'll either receive an envelope to mail back your drugs to the DEA, or there are a number of pharmacies that actually have kiosks that you can drop the drugs off directly there, and they will be picked up by the Department of Justice. So please do not flush anything down the toilet, dig a hole, drop them into that hole, or do anything else. Don't put them in your garbage can, but bring them to now these numerous recycling areas within all of the pharmacies in the county. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. Noah?
Yes, thank you. I just want to start with a quick invitation to what will be the city's annual Urban Forest Arbor Day celebration. We're going to be planting trees this Saturday. We've been working with our Community Beautification and Heritage Committee and as well as the City Public Works Department to come up with a good plan on locations. And this year we're focusing on the Quintana Corridor. And so the event, which is open to all volunteers, any age, we're going to have equipment available, reflective vests, guides, and so forth. The event's this Saturday, starting at 1 o'clock at the community center, where we'll have an orientation and mixer that'll include a representative from the Public Works Department sharing information about our water conservation program and new rebates, as well as booths from our different beautification and volunteer groups that are participating to hopefully intrigue you to consider what they're doing and maybe get involved. And so that'll be from 1 to 2 o'clock at the community center. At that point, we'll be equipped with maps and information and the locations of the different trees that the city's putting a lot of work into, prepping the wells and so forth and having them out and at the different locations. And so we'll head out from 2 o'clock until completion, planting approximately 15 street trees from our adopted city street tree list. So once again, that's this Saturday, and it's our annual Arbor Day celebration. And all are welcome, and you can contact our Public Works Advisor or our Public Services Department or myself if you'd like some more information. And then just to cap off a little bit of review of some of the things that I picked up at the League of California Cities Conference, which I found to be also beneficial. One of the things I think we could all relate to, but applied to a statewide level, is in the opening remarks, there was a comment that statewide we're $140 billion short on our infrastructure. So we have a deficit that is major statewide, and that includes streets and water, wastewater, and so forth. Obviously, we have some issues here, not quite on that scale, but what's good to know is the League is one of our advocates for reaching out to both state and at the federal level to try to come up with more resources to help us address that problem here locally. And I think it's one of the benefits of being involved with the League of California Cities. One of the more interesting presentations I went to was regarding the recent passage in the California State Senate of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which I learned is the state's first comprehensive bill focused on managing groundwater. And I found that to be kind of shocking and a little scary, but we also know how contentious groundwater's been. So this is a step in the right direction and something that's going to affect every city in the state eventually. As I've been talking with Mr. Lavick about what this means for Morro Bay, it appears mostly focused on the larger cities first and a few of the bigger groundwater, high-usage groundwater basins in our county. Not likely going to have a drastic effect on the Morro and Chorro valleys within the next couple of years, but the writing is definitely on the wall, and we need to be preparing our own local basin management plan, and I think we're on the right track there. Talking with Mr. Livick, and previously at council meetings, we have talked about the need to update our water management plan, and that will be a future agenda item. So that's something to be prepared for, and basically it's striving to develop what the sustainable yield is for our water basins and then implement that plan and have the different agencies, who's going to be the manager of that program. And then just briefly, I thought, I think maybe at least two of us, Mr. Heading and Councilmember Johnson, as well as Deputy Manager Sam Taylor, we attended an economic development presentation focused on entrepreneurship And it was pretty interesting to hear what the County of Santa Cruz has done on a shoestring budget, working with craft businesses, craft entrepreneurship, and creating what I thought to be a pretty creative program, partnering with Etsy and helping to facilitate small craft businesses to have the resources they need, decentralized, but with support and training to grow and become actually a distributor and a larger manufacturer of these great local cultural products. And I know Mr. Taylor was taking some notes, and I saw some light bulbs going off over his head as I was listening as well. So those are my announcements.
Great, no, thanks. And as we conclude our announcements, I think Mr. Taylor has one announcement that he'd like to share as well.
Sure, thank you. So if I get AGP to help on the computer really quick, and we can run through it. Here they come. So here what we're talking about tonight is just to let people know, and I haven't let Scott know this yet because he was gone, but we're extending for another week the City Voice Survey. City Voice Survey is a telephone survey that we've implemented to help us gather input about the community's vision and value statements. And those are statements that I'm not sure that we've necessarily had before, but they allow us and the community to really put in words in writing what Morro Bay is about. Those vision and value statements will allow us to then update the general plan, and hopefully we'll use those vision and value statements for all of the business that we conduct so that we can refer back to those on behalf of the community. This is what the community's vision and values are about Morro Bay. So we try to come up with a novel way to engage people, and in particular because we want to reach more people. And that's always a struggle for every city, is trying to come up with ways to get more people involved. People are busy. They have lives, and sometimes the government is not part of that. Sometimes coming to town hall meetings is not part of that. But going to the grocery store is. Going to Marl Rock is. Walking down the Embarcadero, going to Grandma's Yogurt. Those are all things that people just are out in the natural environment doing. And so the way we did it was we partnered for free with Code for America, the 21st Century Digital Technology Company, kind of a nonprofit that works with municipalities to come up with technological ways to engage people. And this novel way was the telephone in this case. And we've put together a very, very short survey where we ask some minor demographic information and then some simple questions about just what do you want Morro Bay to be like in the next 20 years. And so you'll see on the screen that we put it on Facebook, and that's a quick plug for our Facebook page as well. If you go to facebook.com/City of Morro Bay, you can get there, like it, and get a lot of news and information about the community. We've seen that increase in likes from 200 in January to the current 1257, so we're doing pretty well for that, and we're very thankful that people are coming on and engaging in community conversation. By the way, on that water main break, over 4,000 people were reached with the posts on that, so we're really happy that we were able to get so many people involved and know what was going on. But we put up this post to show you, here's one of the signs out there by Marl Rock. Just trying to keep them in one place. Each sign has an individual location code, and that's very important because you need that code in order to participate. And I will fully admit, we put out a JPEG at the advice of Code for America because we didn't want to give anybody the codes from a sign to offset the survey results. And then people are like, why? I'm calling this number, and I don't have a code. So we've learned from that. This was also a learning process as part of this beta. This is a beta test, actually, from Code for America. If you go to the next tab really quick, once you go to the website, there's also a companion website. You can actually see where all the sign locations are and then listen to the messages from community members. If you click on any one of those bubbles, it'll actually take you to a specific page for all of the input for that location. That's why the location code is important. And then if you go to the last one. So we are now in the final week of this survey. Over 116 people as of today have participated. And I think the reason why we're the happiest about this is that about 75% of everyone who has participated has indicated that they've never provided us with input before. So these are ways where we're trying to reach the people who come to us all the time. Their input is absolutely valuable. But there are many families that just are busy, so we should go to them. We should reach out to them and get their say and input too. So with that, on my final minute of these 3 minutes, I just wanted to play one message for you I thought you might find interesting. So it's that
parks
right
and
there.
Beaches. And also I'd like to free up the City Council to stay focused on the wastewater treatment plant and the power plant. And if we're talking about 20 years out,
okay.
maybe look at burying the overhead lines, the power lines and such. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this input.
That was good. It was actually about 50 seconds, but we got about 20, and that'll keep me on time. So I like that she said thank you, so I put it in.
All right, thanks, Sam. Any comments from council? No?
Yeah, Sam, thanks for the update. And I just want to confirm that this is just one of a diversified approach for outreach. Some of the traditional methods we've used will be also in place, and we're looking at other creative ways to get more participation in the general plan update. But I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so obviously we also invited people on Facebook on that specific post to give us input there in writing. And then the input will be then go to the General Plan Advisory Committee, which Scott is managing that process. And that's the traditional methods of outreach, where we invite people to come to the advisory body and have their say about that input. And so this isn't the final survey say at all.
Great, thanks. And with that, that'll conclude our announcements. And we'll move on to public presentations. And tonight we have a LEAP report. Mr. Don Maruska, welcome. Thanks for coming back and giving us the update, and we're looking forward to it.
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm really delighted and excited to be with you here this evening. This is a report on the first year of the LEAP program, and that's a program that actually has had the active involvement of more than 100 business owners and residents in various initiatives, actually 10 different initiatives. You're going to be hearing about those tonight, what's been accomplished, and you'll be hearing some from me. And then I'm just so delighted that many of them have chosen to come this evening to share a minute or two with you about their experiences with it. As you'll recall, we're really trying to strengthen the community by bringing together the residents, the businesses, and the visitors in ways that make Morro Bay strong and that help it to move forward, and that's really critically important. There were a series of phases. We're now at the conclusion of the first year, so we're reviewing results and updating. And I'm going to be including at the conclusion of my remarks some lessons learned and some recommendations for your consideration from my vantage point. And you'll be hearing from some of the community folks about things that they've observed and things that they're hopeful for as this moves forward. We had started with some clear objectives, wanted to be sure that you could sustain and enhance quality of life, provide desired goods and services for residents, offer engaging activities and events for them and for visitors, and that visitors would join in enjoying these benefits, and thereby we'd strengthen the tax revenues and diversify the economy with particular attention to sustainable head-of-household jobs. And that was the basic idea of organizing this. I was facilitating this. The business leaders and community members were the ones taking the lead, so I don't in any way want to take away the thunder from them, give the impression that I did all this. They were really, and you as council members, each of you on the dais were actively involved in these efforts. So the focal areas, the businesses themselves, tourism, and selective diversification. In previous presentations at the council, not by me, but by your city manager and others, there's been a discussion about the $3 million gap. And so it isn't just possible to generate $3 million in additional revenues to the city to satisfy infrastructure needs and requirements by putting all the local businesses on steroids. There's actually a need, to figure out how to selectively diversify and to take advantage of some of the unique Morro Bay assets to do that. So there were 10 and continue to be 10 key initiatives. I'm going to briefly comment about those and then hear the comments from others as we move forward with this. The first was to create a LEAP team. This is the mayor, the city manager, and the community development manager serving as a focal point when businesses that are already here want to expand or businesses coming from the outside have attractive opportunities for the community. This is a way for them to get immediate attention, get the issues sorted through, get them positioned out into the community, and to do that effectively. So that team has been in place. There's some early wins I'm going to share with you in a moment, and they're continuing to focus on some of the opportunities that are going forward. So South Bay Wild was an example of that, how to help local fishermen commercialize their fishing business and make that a revenue source for them locally. And to do that on the waterfront in available parcels. The Sun Bulletin, last time I spoke about this, it was a derelict building, all papered over. Now All Good Elemental Herbs is in there. And I stopped in the other day, and there are 8 people working in that location, 8 jobs that are very attractive jobs. They're working on computers, selling the goods and services, organizing that and everything else. And they've got a living wall in the back, so they're trying to do all kinds of things to make that a lively space. And something that's actually might be a model for some other businesses that want to come into Morro Bay. That's very, very helpful, I found, in working with other cities, San Luis Obispo, Pismo Beach, and other places, is that people have to have a way of visualizing what might be possible here. And nothing better than having an existing business owner showcasing what they can do to make things happen here. So that's very important. I know later on tonight you're going to be talking about the wind energy. So the LEAP team has also been a focal point for helping to raise at early stages what are the concerns and issues that the city would have, what are the kinds of things that would need to be sorted through, so that people who have ideas don't get way down the road and off on a tangent that doesn't work for the community. So I think the LEAP team has been working very effectively, and it's great that they're continuing in those efforts. On the next one, I'd actually like to invite up Susan Stewart and Walter Heath, because they've had an involvement in this next initiative, which is to revitalize and link business districts to boost activity. A lot's happened here. The city stepped up on some tree maintenance and street paving and striping. There was a lighting and beautification effort that took place with volunteers. Morro Bay Bloom was out involved in that. So that was really outstanding. And there's an effort here to really figure out, how to make things work better, and work better for the local businesses, work better for residents, work better for tourists, so the place can hum. So that's really all very exciting. And the other thing that came up in this initiative was, figuring out the continuing issue of how do you link the Embarcadero through the Centennial Stairs up into the downtown. And I understand that the city has contracted with RRM Design that has come up with really exciting designs for other communities. And it'll be really interesting to see what creative ideas can come in to help accomplish those objectives. So with that, I'd really like to have Susan, who's been really spearheading the efforts about the downtown and how to help that move along, offer a couple of comments and lessons learned or other suggestions you'd like to offer.
That's kind of about it. Susan Stewart, business owner and resident in Morro Bay. And it's interesting, I hadn't expected to come up here with Walter, but I think it's kind of a good partnership because we did work on some of this together. And I do think that one of the things that's happened is what our group really suggested was that the city had to step forward and take responsibility for some of these things, and I think they have. My understanding is that we're going to be starting on a parking management plan activity this month, maybe into next month because things have been busy, but I think you heard our concerns, and that is something the city has to take responsibility for. I also heard after we've dropped lots of limbs on at least a half a dozen parked cars that I know of in the downtown area, we are hiring an arborist, right, to come and look at some of the dead trees and just the overloaded trees that are challenges in our area. So you heard some of those things. You're, contracting with RRM to do the connection, or study, look at it. So moving forward, I do hope that we continue to have dialogue, we continue to have communication about what our concerns are. One of the things that I saw in the past was we had staff members from the city at TBID meetings, which is one of our large business industries. That's our hoteliers, our lodging industry. And we also had a staff member sitting on the chamber board. And I really feel that that was valuable, to be at those monthly meetings together, to listen to the concerns, to share the needs, what was going on in the city. So if it's possible, I would urge some kind of continuation of that sort of relationship. And Walter's here, and we'll probably talk a lot more about it. But if you haven't read the America in Bloom report about Morro Bay, I strongly recommend that you read it. A lot of the suggestions from that group mirrored what our little advisory group talked about, the connectivity, the enhancement. And they liked the town. They had a lot of praise for our town and what we're doing, but I think there's always more we can do. And again, a lot of their suggestions we had on our list. I think as a community, and I may speak to it a little later, we need to be aware of what our resources are as well as what our limitations are, and not be afraid of our limitations, to embrace them. We're not going to be a big town full of big box stores. That's a good thing. That's what makes us special, makes us want to live here, raise our families here. And then one last thought I had, I think probably the city is one of our biggest employers in this town. There's a lot of really good people here. Hopefully a lot of people who are invested in this community, who hopefully some of you are able to live here. And I know that's been hard because of the housing issues. But you're here. I hope you're part of this community. I hope that we continue to generate money in this community rather than sending it out to contractors who are out of the area. Maybe take some of that money and keep reinvesting it in ourselves. I think it will go a long way. So now I'll shut up and see what Walter has to say.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm Walter Heath. Good evening. And I have to concur with everything that Susan said. I think LEAP Initiative 2 has been a good opportunity for volunteer groups such as Morro Bay and Bloom and the others to collaborate with our commercial sector, our business sector, our private sector, and partner with the city so that you have the three kind of going after the problem of revitalizing our downtown. And that's a good thing. We're headed in the right direction that way. I look forward to being able to do more. Fortunately, Morro Bay in Bloom, part of our association with America in Bloom, gives us a lot of leads, shall we say, or a lot of information about grants that are available, grant opportunities that the city can take advantage of. And frequently with these grant opportunities, there's a need for the granting organization to see that there is public support for what the grant is being applied for. So it's great that we have these various volunteer organizations and our business organizations working together to demonstrate that whatever's gone through the public process and has been approved by the residents is really wanted and supported, and we can go wholeheartedly after some of these grants, and that'll enable us to kind of narrow that $3 million gap a little bit and continue to improve the town. So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks.
Great. Thanks a lot. So a lot of initiative there, a lot of things happening. I'd like Red Davis to join me up here on the next initiative, which has been the one to reinvent events. There was a big effort earlier this year to figure out how could these events really be things that people that live in the community would love to be at, would be a celebration of the folks in the community, and would help those be successful. So, Red, would you like to report a little bit on what happened with that effort?
Thank you. We began with the assumption that events are good for Morro Bay. They're good for the economic growth of our city. And what we wanted to do was look at a couple of things. One, what can we do to make it easier for people to put on events? And number two, how can we present our events that showcase our city? And I think that as Mayor Irons said earlier this evening, the Harbor Festival this year did a really good job of that. It was a model for showcasing local businesses and services, public services as well as private services. So what we wanted to do to make it easier for people to put on events was, number one, we thought we need to have a guidebook. Something that people can look at, particularly people from outside the area. What are the steps that you go through to get the permits and the various departments you need to talk to put on an event? Second thing would be a master calendar of events that are put on in the city, a way to see what weekends are open, what holidays are open, and avoid conflicts. And then the third thing would be to have almost an ombudsman position, a special events coordinator, someone who can help people get through the city process. And as we move forward, we think that these three things lead to a natural partnership that include the Tourism Bureau, the Chamber of Commerce, and the city. We do look for the city to be the lead on these things because that is the focal point for the permitting process.
All right. Thanks, Fred. Yeah. And I understand from a communication from the city staff that apparently there's an events coordinator already identified in the city. Is that correct? So that's happening, and things are starting to move along. So good progress. So initiative number 4 actually had multiple facets to it because it's all about how to promote the environmental assets here in the community for residents and for visitors alike to enjoy. John Heading from the council was one of the persons helping to organize that. There was a list of environmental assets that was developed by that group. There was some pickleball tournament and planning efforts, and there's some ongoing collaboration happening with the city staff around those topics. I don't know, John, if you wish to make any other comment about that at this time, or because in this case, the council wasn't just sort of sitting back and looking at things. They just, as the mayor was actively involved in the LEAP team, they were there rolling up their sleeves, helping to make things happen.
Just real quickly. We had primarily Jenny Gerlich and Linda Merrill who have created what I would call a stellar, robust list of the things that you might not normally think about in Morro Bay that are amenable to events. And those are things such as, the types of birds, the types of different species that we have in our system, the ecology of our community, and how do we incorporate that into our annual plan for and development for marketing. And so that document will be used as a springboard to look at hopefully new events around some of those ecological entities that have been identified in the city. So I'd like to thank them for that. Secondly, we are looking at the feasibility still of a potential, what I would call sports park. Now that's down the line. But one of those is really the rapid growth of pickleball, and it has grown tremendously in our community and looks like it might have some significant economic returns to us. The third was the aquarium, and just a brief update, we have formed a team with the Avila Bay Aquarium. Ourselves, myself, and primarily Christine Johnson and Dave, our city manager, have been the leads in the city to work on that. They are now, the city staff are now working with the folks in Avila to come up with an RFP to hopefully present to you a combined program with 3 different entities involved. For a new concept in Morro Bay. So I'm excited about that. And then Noah also was working on one initiative.
Yeah, so another area was in the establishment of a Citizens Beautification and Heritage Committee that Noah was involved in to help pull all the different initiatives that are underway around that topic together. Did you want to make a brief comment about that?
Sure, absolutely. In this conversation, this was part of the brainstorm and focus recognition mostly that quality of life and the health of our environments are cornerstones to and drivers to good economic strategy and developments. And particularly here for Morro Bay, that's something that we need to take care of. Also recognizing quite a few nonprofits and volunteer organizations that are working along the lines of historical heritage, beautification, art, and not having a platform for them to interact with the city and each other, to increase collaboration, utilize our limited resources and volunteer abilities to work together to advance some of the different things that we think are possible here. And we have a good list we've come up with for our Citizens Beautification and Heritage Committee. Loosely use the Citizens Bike Committee as a structure to work off of and to emulate. and have a really exciting list of projects that we're working on, basically that each of these different organizations that are involved are bringing forward. And then having city staff in the room has been very helpful to give them access and understand the best ways to work together going forward.
Great.
Do you want me to?
You were also involved with the Open Space Alliance effort. And
yeah, absolutely. And that came from also the idea that our environment is a key part of our economic potential. And outdoor recreation, natural beauty, making sure that as we go forward, whether it's with the update of the general plan or other developments, that we're carving out space and advancing accessibility and preservation of our open spaces. So we have actually a working group. We've adopted a mission. The working group is called the Morro Bay Alliance, Open Space Alliance, and mission, vision, value statement's been adopted. We have about 50 people on our interest list, and we are in the process of looking and considering to establish our own nonprofit, similar to what we see out of the community of Cayucas, a volunteer land conservation organization. So with either of these options, the Open Space Alliance or the Beautification and Heritage Committee, if you're interested, please contact me at 772-7668. I'd love to tap you into it. And for both of those, having city staff involvement is something that we need to be able to continue as we advance both these efforts.
Okay, and I'll also highlight that this presentation is up on the city's website. It's on the home page. You can click on the LEAP program, and so if you're having trouble reading things up on the screens at home or whatever, you can do that, and you can also see who's involved and how to get involved in these as you go forward. So let's just take a look at some of the other things that are happening. An effort to see what could create community spaces and stimulate some sustained activity in the downtown area. The parklet was one of the efforts to explore that. That period has completed. The survey results are in, and the council decided to set that aside and to discuss it, what might be done in terms of outdoor venues when it's reviewing its goal setting for the next fiscal year. We've got another initiative here. This was an initiative that, as you'll recall from the early presentations, had everyone in the community excited, and that is how to get better, more quick and fast internet connectivity. And I understand on this one that there are efforts underway to have an RFP out for this in January. So more news to be coming about how this might be possible and what it might look like and how that could pencil out. And would it be only business? Would there be ways for the residents or businesses that are in residences to access this? A variety of topics to be explored with that. The next initiative here, and I'd ask Jennifer Redmond to come up because she was as president of the chamber active in this program. And Jennifer, you'd like to talk a little bit about the effort to get an inventory of what space is available, how to get people involved. And I know the city staff has been working to come up with, through creative use of Google Maps and other free tools, to provide a good insight into what's available here in Morro Bay for people who'd like to develop their businesses.
Hi, Jennifer Redmond, resident and also owner of Edward Jones Investments in town. And on this one, it was really more of a learning lesson. I think a lot of us thought if we would just put up the spaces for rent and maybe put up this building is available to buy or own or remodel, that kind of the old story, they would come. But we're learning now that it's really about a vision for Morro Bay, and I think that's something you guys are working on is the vision. The group discussed about having districts, like maybe the downtown district is more for shops and coffee shops and little quaint places where people will maybe walk up and down the street in Morro Bay Boulevard and Main Street. And Embarcadero maybe is more tourism driven, and different places will be more industrial. And so one idea we all thought was a good idea, if we could have a vision board for certain areas of Morro Bay. So if we could just either go look at other cities and say this is what their downtown looks like, and this could be a vision for our downtown. To get sometimes if you see a picture, of course, it helps you to get passionate. It helps you to see where we could go, and then people will get behind it, and that helps then to find out that the right businesses in the right area in Morro Bay, and also hopefully maybe get business owners, residents, landowners involved to maybe put their finances behind to make the vision actually come true. So it's not just about inventory. That is one part, and we're still working on that with the city and the chamber, saying how can we make the inventory easy to find and the sizes, but really also what is the vision to make sure we're putting the right people in the right spot to make Morro Bay what we want it to look like. So that was basically what we've learned so far.
Great, and I know you were also involved in the 8th initiative about learning and deciding with regard to the business incubator role and how the chamber can help support that. Did you want to comment about that?
So number 8 has 2 different parts. One part was that we were doing a program with the city for the business incubator business. We did meet with people from Cal Poly's Hot House, different council members and mayor, and different people were in that meeting. And we really discussed, is this really something that Morro Bay should put more money behind? Is it really needed this time in Morro Bay? We found due to just not having all the finances to back a hot house in Morro Bay, and also not having the connection so strong with Cal Poly and having professors that can come right into our hot house or students come and work here, that wasn't the best place for our finances or our time. So we put that on the side right now. The best part was to enhance our local businesses, our chamber website, our city website, and to make sure that we're really educating chamber businesses, residents, landowners with great forums, with information on our website, social media, and trying to make them successful and promote themselves, and then focus on incubators and things like that in the future.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. So it's also been helpful as the Chamber's been pulling together new forums and bringing people from outside the community but nearby to help people locally learn from what others are doing and finding successful. The 9th initiative is outreach to attract businesses. Councilmember Johnson has been active in this arena, as other council members have from time to time, in helping to get people aware of what the opportunities are here in Morro Bay and what might be some possibilities. We're seeing some people investing in the downtown core and putting some dollars and sweat equity into helping to revitalize that area. I don't know if Councilmember Johnson, you wish to make a comment about that before we move on?
I'll just be brief, just to comment that, we were able to work our relationship with the Economic Vitality Corporation a little bit closer than we had in the past. We were specifically invited Mike Manchek to come to many of our meetings, and he was involved. We also reached out to other successful business leaders in the county and other chamber executives in the county to, again, network closer together. What are they doing that helps them succeed, and what are some practices for us that we can lean on? And we've had a great turnout to our most recent chamber forum, which was, again, sort of an outcome of that outreach to get more connected countywide on some of these items. And it's especially because we have spots in town where we can have creative and unique investment into properties and businesses that we as residents first would like to see here. And then if we enjoy those businesses and support them, then it's natural that our visitors would like them too. So we do have pockets. It's not like we have giant tracts of land near an airport where we can throw down office complexes, but we do have space for creative and unique development that fits into where we are today. So,
okay, thank you very much. So the 10th initiative is around support for commercial and recreational marine interests. And the report I got from Dana McLeish and Jeremiah O'Brien is the city's approved the Harbor Advisory Board's recommendations to proceed with a pre-master plan for a marine facility around the Triangle lot. And so work is being done to figure out, okay, how could that be designed and put together and to further those ideas and opportunities and to see if that can be a real anchor for the the fishing and marine interests that are here in the community. Now, there are a whole bunch of other topics that really aren't on the table with the 10 initiatives. They're the big things like the power plant, that's sort of the elephant in the room of Morro Bay. What happens with it, what happens around the Morrill Elementary School, other ideas that are on the table that weren't actionable at the present time and so didn't get a lot of traction with our business and community volunteers. I just want to very quickly here at the end cover what I see as some lessons learned. This is from my personal viewpoint, so it isn't the consensus view of all the participants. It's rather what I saw as I stepped back from this. And you heard it this evening, that Morro Bay businesses and residents have a strong interest. They want to work with the city, and they want to be heard early and in an ongoing way. That volunteers have contributed initiative. There's evidence that they're dedicating time and personal resources and money out of pocket to help these things happen. That there are distinctive assets that the community has that it could be developing further and upgrading. Morro Bay is, if you will, in some respects kind of like a product that needs a little upgrade, just like all products do, a new version, a new iPhone, a new whatever. Visitors and others want to see things fresh, new, and distinctive. The city has been responding to this issue of not having a clear economic development and marketing plan to attract business expansion of the scale that's needed to match the economic objectives of the city for supporting community services without added taxes to the residents. And that given the relatively small size of Morro Bay, the city is probably going to need to attract and tap ideas and expertise from outside. In a lot of instances, the standard mantra for local economic development is grow the businesses you have. And that's certainly important, and that's job one. However, the challenge and the scale of what Morro Bay is looking at in terms of how it can develop for the future is going to really take some creativity, ideas, and commitment of other capital and other players in order for that to happen. And so in that regard, the city's leadership, commitment, and support are vital elements. You heard that from people this evening. They really appreciate the city staff being partners with them versus, kind of just abstract reviewers of things. So I think a lot of good bridges have been built. So recommendations for sustained success is all around this partnership idea and making sure that dialogue is continuing. Having dedicated city resources, you've done that with your deputy city manager and planning, and also some outside design expertise and collaboration that's going to be critical. And a balance of long-term planning, things like the general plan update that take years and years, and the LEAP near-term tangible results. I think there's going to be a continuous balancing effort there. People need to see in the community momentum, things happening, or else they become a little jaded, I think, about longer-term planning when they don't see near-term things being attended to. And I encourage the city to keep an inventory on the city's LEAP page of these different initiatives. So anyone who's wondering, hey, we worked on that, what happened to that, what went on, they can go there, see where it is, what's the next step, who they talk with, how it can go forward. I think that'll be very helpful in building confidence in the community for proceeding. That's probably the number one thing for the city in going forward. Is anybody who's going to come and invest to redevelop or to provide a museum or tourism or anything else out of the power plant or any other major thing is going to look to the city and they're going to say, is this a can-do city? Is this a city where people work together? Or is this a city that has a lot of internal friction and isn't clear about where it's headed and doesn't seem to have momentum? So if people, and I know people in many segments want to see something happen different than what's there at the power plant and other major things, it's really going to take pulling together and demonstrating that this is a city that people would like to partner with, whether that's the aquarium or the Marine Education Center or whatever else. Those are all critical. And then I would encourage you to establish a budget or what I'd call a LEAP opportunity fund each year. I know you can't necessarily predict what the needs are, but it's always hard after you've already baked your budget to go back and come up with some things. I think even if there was something in the neighborhood of $10,000 or $20,000 that would be there as an opportunity fund that the residents could say, hey, we'll put this sweat equity in if you can help with this, or something you could get a lot of leverage out of that. We found in March when that came up in the budgeting cycle around this time that people weren't really asking for big amounts of money. They just wanted something to demonstrate commitment, support, and help them in getting some things done. And I think you can get a lot of leverage out of that. And then again, this issue of the need to attract a significant new business activity if you're going to hit your economic targets. And having some way to strengthen the message. And I view Morro Bay, being a smaller place, and limited number of residents and so on. I think Morro Bay is going to have to be a little leaner, a little scrappier than like a San Luis Obispo that can afford to do huge plans and long time periods and has lots of resources. I think, you might want to position Morro Bay as a little bit of the scrappier can-do player, willing to try things in a thoughtful way, and to create some buzz and some responses. I've seen this happen, with the tech pitches that you see out of the San Luis Obispo hothouse. They get tremendous attention from people all over the West Coast that come and listen to that. Now, we're not a tech center here, but some of the ideas of what Morro Bay could be could stimulate a competition of ideas and opportunities that could bring some additional thought into the picture and additional capital and other things that could help you in accomplishing your objectives. So this is all in the context of how the business community can work with fresh ideas and planning, take actions and get results, and do that in ways that serve the residents and the community as a whole. And anyone who would like more information can just go to the homepage, click on that. Tonight's presentation is there, and other information so that you can tune in on what's happening and how you'd like to be a part of helping Morro Bay leap forward. It's certainly been my pleasure to help you to this stage, and thank you very much for the active involvement of all the council members and the community and the business leaders and others that have helped make this happen, and the city staff, which has really been out there taking a big role and making important new things happen. Thanks so much.
Don, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from council?
I would just like to specifically thank Mr. Maruska for working with us and encouraging us to work together and being very thoughtful and patient and organized with this whole year. It takes a lot to pull everybody together in any city, and I just appreciate your effort, and I think it helped us all to work together, and I think we found there were many connections between us, between all of the departments, and everything that happens in the city, whether it's beautification or business or parking or planning for the future. I think all of those things we were able to see through the LEAP program, how they all weave together, and to make a more, I guess I would say, unified community, we need to learn about each other's unique businesses and unique areas of work, and then just try to make it better working together. So I think that your style and soft-spoken nature helped us to do that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. John or Noah? Don, just wanted to echo the thanks and just note that as a resident businessman here in Morro Bay, recognize your investment here in Morro Bay and your passion that you brought to this. So just wanted to say thanks again.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And with that, that'll conclude our public presentations. We'll move on to public comment. And opening our public comment, we have a business spot. And Mr. Walter Heath for America in Bloom would be opening up our public comment at this time. Thank you, Walter. Welcome. You have some exciting news for us.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. A little pause to celebrate here. I think a lot of what we've been talking about tonight so far is about opportunities to make a difference. And there are a group of 60 or so, give or take, probably more when you count people who have... Oh. Where do I go?
Are we micless at the moment?
Wait for the mic
Okay.
Oh, there we go. That sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, take two. Walter Heath, Morro Bay resident from America in Bloom. Morro Bay in Bloom. We're associated with America in Bloom. We just got back from the National Conference of America in Bloom in Holland, Michigan. And the volunteers of Morro Bay in Bloom raised $2,600 this year for us to participate in the program. That included a registration fee of $1,000, some money to produce this document, which is a 20-page community profile, a living postcard of volunteerism and accomplishment here in Morro Bay. That's, we have to submit every year in order to be judged, and then putting the judges up and feeding them while they're here. And the judges do a comprehensive 2-day tour. So basically you're looking at the money that we raise in order to participate. You're looking at 2,000 plus hours of volunteer time that goes into making our city look more beautiful. And then planning a 2-day tour for 2 judges who are experts in their field. And they look very closely and grade us on a 1,000-point scale. So this all culminates in the national conference, and we're very proud to say that among the 40 cities that competed this year, Morro Bay was the winner in its population category. So we're now officially a champion in only our 2nd year in the program. The judges always give us a great template for improvement. So we look forward to working on all of that. Again, more opportunities. But if we score 850 points or greater, we get a 5 out of a possible 5 Bloom rating, and we attain that. So I come here kind of bearing gifts tonight that I'll leave behind. I hope they're displayed prominently, maybe where people pay their water bills or something, so they can see them up close. And we look forward to another year. If you folks are interested in making a difference, Saturday 9 a.m. at Centennial Parkway, we'll be doing our usual cleanup and planting and weeding and pruning and all that from 9 to 11. And then we'll be participating in the street tree planting from 1 to 3. Folks should meet at the Morro Bay Community Center at 1. There's a social mixer, an opportunity to get information about the city's water rebate program and so forth. Public Works is generously participating in all of this and pre-digging the holes. It's going to be the easiest tree planting I think you could experience. There are free gardening gloves for the kids and seeds and all that. It's a great community effort. So we look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Public comment. Thanks very much, Walter. And we're going to open up public comment now. This is for items that are not on the agenda. We do have some items that are later on the agenda for those who can't stay for some of those later agenda items and would like to come up and speak to those items now may do so. But for the sake of this, we have public comment open for items not on the agenda. Welcome.
Good evening, Marla Jo Bouton-Sadowski. I'm the chairwoman of Coast Alliance, Citizens Opposing Acoustic Seismic Testing. I have just become aware today, October 13, that there's a planned proposed acoustic seismic testing for an area in my city. There's the Morro Rock along the beach line, out 25 to 60 foot depths of water. The permittees asking for the permit are Furgo and Padre. The boat that's supposed to be used is the Julian, and the State Lands Commission report indicates that the Julian will be docked in the Morro Bay Harbor. for this testing period, I'm beside myself. All the wonderful things that I've heard about our community and what we want to do, and it's all true, but behind the curtain, what is going on here? Why did we not know about this? There's still time for folks to contact the California State Lands Commission with any questions, comments, and concerns. 210 decibels is what's stated in the permitting. 215 decibels is high energy seismic survey. This city, this community, this state of California, and internationally, we fought 2 years ago to stop a high energy seismic survey testing outside our waters. That was a huge, huge victory. One that has not been accomplished in this state ever before from a raw grassroots effort. I'm beside myself, and I want to know what you know about it, Mayor Irons. What do you know about it? And I want to know what the harbor master knows about it, and I want to know the purpose, because on the State Lands Commission, on the permit that Fergo put through, the purpose, they just put, they're going to do seismic surveys. The purpose for this permit for a seismic survey is that we're going to do seismic survey. 210 decibels. 140 decibels is the absolute maximum that a Navy SEAL can tolerate underwater without dying. 210 decibels right up to our shoreline. What are you thinking?
Thank you, Marlo. Public comment is open for those who'd like to come forward. Please do so.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff. My name is John Elliott, resident and business owner in Morro Bay. I'm here tonight to talk about our downtown trick-or-treat event. Our committee has been working hard on this year's event. We have made contact with every business on Morro Bay Boulevard and Main Street within our map area. So far, we have over 50 businesses signed up. Although last year's event was very successful, this year we have made some changes based on community feedback. We will be closing Morro Bay Boulevard from Main Street to Market and inviting all Morro Bay businesses and organizations to participate by setting up a table and handing out a treat. If you are not located downtown on Main Street or Morro Bay Boulevard, you may participate this year by setting up a table. This means the Embarcadero, North Morro Bay, Quintana, and anywhere else, even home-based businesses. Also, if your business is closed along Main Street or Morro Bay Boulevard and you do not wish to open for this event, you may set up a table in the closed-off area on Morro Bay Boulevard. If you wish to participate or have questions, please email me, Barber John, at morrobaybarbershop@gmail.com so that I can add your business to our map. I'm extending the deadline to be on the map to October 23rd, so please help spread the word. The event is on Halloween, which falls on a Saturday this year, from 2 to 5 p.m. We have a walking parade planned with a zombie marching band and drill team starting at 3:45 p.m. and a costume contest with prizes. The day of the event, starting at 1:45 p.m., you will be able to pick up the trick-or-treat maps at Grandma's Frozen Yogurt. There are several event flyers posted around town, like the one on the overhead or on your screen. If you would like digital copies to email or post on social media, please email me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
I'm also going to talk about the trick-or-treat Halloween party. It's going to be
state your name, please.
Oh, sorry. Jennifer Redmond,
Thanks,
residence.
Jennifer.
And I just want to make sure every school, PTA, if you have any connections, please let the kids know. This is really going to be a fun event. Last year we had about 300 members and children and families come down. And just know if you are a nonprofit group, any organization, it does not cost to come down, put up a card table, just bring a lot of candy and celebrate downtown Morro Bay. If you're on the Embarcadero, remember, just bring up a table, let John know, and we want to really have a safe, fun event to celebrate downtown Morro Bay, all of Morro Bay businesses, nonprofit groups, and especially our children. So come out and have a good time.
Thanks, Jennifer. Public comment is still open.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name's Jane Heath. I'm a Morro Bay resident and a Morro Bay business owner. I'm here tonight to share with you some exciting things that some of you are already noticing around Morro Bay. The Morro Bay and Bloom Group has sponsored now for the second year the Surfboard Art Festival. It's going on right now in businesses in your community. There are maps available both on the Morro Bay Surf Art website and in local businesses where you can find all of the various surfboards on which local artists have transformed into public art. It's a wonderful and exciting and totally positive project that's good for everybody. That's good for the artists, that's good for the community, and that ultimately is good for the nonprofit organizations, Morro Bay and Bloom and Project Surf Camp, that benefit from it. What I especially, though, want to remind you is that on November 7th, we'll be holding the gala auction this year at the Morro Bay Golf Course to auction off all of this public art. The boards include at least 4 boards that were done by local middle school students as projects in their art classes. So this is, there's always something special. There's always something for everybody. And I would encourage you to, for local residents, the cost for the gala is reduced to $50 per person, and that's an early bird price, so you want to get that done ASAP. And the best way to do that is to send your check to Morro Bay and Bloom at P.O. Box 782, Morro Bay, California. You can also go to www.morrobayandbloom.com and find information there. And also, you can send emails to morrobayandbloom@gmail.com if you want further information. So we hope you're getting around town and seeing all the boards. There are really some exciting things this year. There are some things I've never seen before, things that nobody would ever expect to see on a surfboard. So please go around and enjoy this, and we'll see you on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Anybody else for public comment?
Sorry, I don't know how to use that thing. Mayor Irons, City Council members, my name is Steve McIlvain. I'm the owner of the Rancho Cleena site that's currently being considered for your wastewater reclamation facility. Now, as you recall, your council recently held a workshop on the project, and I, after sitting through a couple of years of hearings, took a brief break. And during the break, when I came back, I suddenly find that the city manager is talking about, well, what happens if I don't cooperate and you've got a lot of money expended in this, and about the condemnation of my property. Now, I realize that was an educational thing, but it was being discussed, and eminent domain was a possibility at somewhere down the road. Now, at the time, I thought that was a little weird because I've been a Welling seller up to this point and had allowed your biologists and your botanists and your hydrologists and your geologists and the surveyors and the cultural heritage personnel on the property without any written agreement. And I want to apologize to Councilman Heading. I kept wondering, how come you keep bringing up this MOU? Well, now that you finally got it moving, I can see why, because we have some problems. Now, the reason I put this up, and you have a closer copy that you can take a look at, is on last Tuesday, Mike Nunley sent me a copy of Black and Veatch's schematic of what was going to happen. And the large blue area is basically the water reclamation facility. That little kind of an orange thing above it, that's reserved for the property owner. That's where my house is. And then right next to that is a 2.4 acre solar farm. So when I walk out my door, I'll walk into the solar farm. As the council knows, we agreed a long time ago you don't go past that blue area there, but that was decided, well, gee, we need a little extra up there. And then, of course, the corporation yard is all of those buildings down there. So that came up. Well, when my family saw that, obviously they were upset. And that's a calm word. Ballistic probably doesn't cover it. 2 hours of telling me that you guys are breaking our trust and you can't be trusted and everything else. And as I was looking at this map, the blue area is 5.8 acres. That's what you need for your water reclamation facility. And the corporation yard is 8.1. Well, it'll fit right there. And we won't have all of this solar panels and stuff going around. Well, I had a meeting with the city manager and the public works director, and they obviously saw that that was not part of the agreement. But even though I've asked in the past, if you're going to do a drawing, let me kind of look at it before you put it in concrete, that got out there. It's hard for me to get my family to come back from that. Now, since then, I have an email from, which is included in your packet there, from the city manager pointing out that, well, you know, we've always discussed that southeast corner, and on the second page there's a little picture of a circle that was in your drawing, and this is where that particular area was. Well, that's true, and that was a little 5-acre circle down there for your water reclamation facility. Without getting into great detail, Rob Liebeck came out and said, well, gee, what if we put a corporation yard there too? Would that be a problem? If there's room, I don't have a problem. And then they, well, maybe some of the land over there where this corporation yard is, maybe for public facilities of some sort, could we do that? Okay, so our first memorandum of understanding came out with 11 acres. That is 16.3 acres. The memorandum of understanding that I got at noon today is 21 acres. That ain't going to happen. The problem that I've got right now is, yes, this southwest corner might cost more to develop, but you're obviously in this schematic going to put a solar farm, which is 8, 7 is a corporation yard, 12 is that's just parking. You got a wastewater collection shed, the city's water treatment plant, and the household hazardous waste station there. Now, the letter I got from the city manager is basically saying, well, gee, you're going to have increased construction costs if you go there, and we need to hide the plant. Well, my wastewater treatment plant is right about where 5 and 4 are. It's about 100 feet from building 10. So if your plant's sitting where building 10 is, what's the difference? And if you're going to put a corporation yard that large, I'm over 3 minutes, I'm sorry. But I just wanted to make one final remark in the basis of this. The city's about to embark on a $70 to $100 million project, the biggest the city has ever done. And we have a problem here. And I'm not sure it can be solved. Your city manager is suggesting, if you look at the last thing down there, you know, you haven't spent a lot of money specifically on that site. If 21 acres is what you absolutely have to have, then the Rigetti site, as the letter I put in behind that, is still in consideration. The Coastal Commission approved that. So
thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Public comment is open.
Betty Winholtz, a lot of surprises tonight. I would like to make a couple of comments before I talk about later items on the agenda real quickly regarding the LEAP. 3 comments about that. I hope we're not going to be putting an aquarium back where the aquarium is. I thought the community said, we're done with that. We don't want that. We don't want animals in captivity here. And so I'm not sure what you're doing with the Avila people in terms of putting out an RFP. And I'm sure hoping it's not an aquarium. Number 2, with regard to the LEAP, it's great to have a lot of citizens' input, of course. Always believe that. But if you're forming a lot of committees and they're not going through regular channels, which would be like PWAB and planning and Parks and Rec and like that. For me, that gets a little bit out of control, and I hope that all of these subcommittees will at some point, or outside committees, go through our advisory boards, which are our legally appointed citizens who are here to review things and give you advice. And I hope that you're going to utilize them. And it doesn't sound too much like, in terms of the LEAP, that can't tell to what extent you looked at the 2020 visioning statement that Council came up with 10 years ago, and I hope that's part of that. To get to the items on the agenda later, which I will not be here for because of work, I do want to talk to D2, which is the memorandum with the wind farm thing. I don't remember seeing this come before PWAB. I don't remember seeing this come before planning, and so why is it here when you haven't had this reviewed before your advisory boards? That's a real surprise to us as a community. D1 and D3 and C3 are both, again, municipal code changes, and I will echo what I have said to you earlier. Whether it's legal or not, I think municipal changes should be public hearings, and they're still not, and that's a result of what the city manager and the city mayor decide, but I would encourage you again to look at muni codes being public hearings. And in terms of C2, which has to do with traffic control devices. I totally support the people who said that we need a stop sign there. I think the bulb out things, when you go to see those in San Luis, they don't work. They're not there for the same purpose that this one is, and I think that needs to be addressing. Before I lose my last few minutes, I do want to report on the Grillies civil court hearing that happened today. I want to report that there was an attorney there from the city, which was a real surprise because the city is not involved in this case. It's involved in the criminal case, and so I'm wondering why you're paying someone to come up from Redondo Beach and participate in this hearing. And if you don't know, that she actually set up with counsel. So she acted as though she had standing with the court, and she did not. And that because of what she had to offer, which was that she didn't want city staff to be subpoenaed, that the judge then said to her, then you need to make a motion to squash that, which now involves her in that case, which means you're now officially involved in that case and paying for it. So not only are you paying for the criminal case in November, but you're paying for this. And I just want to make sure you're aware of that. And when you talk about not having money, this is where our money's going. I hope not.
Thanks, Betty. Anybody
and I do
else
want to hear the
comment?
response to Marla Joe's comments about the seismic.
Absolutely, when we get done with public comment. I'm sorry she didn't stay around to hear it.
Good evening, Mayor and
Okay, here
Council.
she is.
My name is Linda Merrill. Regarding B1, Morro Bay garbage, please put off this interim rate adjustment until you can review a few concerns. I have real concerns about the noise in the neighborhoods. It's loud and obnoxious, especially on the island streets. We don't have double glazed glass like rich areas of town, and right out of our windows are the garbage trucks. Could they be quieter? And when they compress the garbage, could you ask them to do it away from homes, because they're tearing up the street out in front of my house. I have this big lump in front of my house where they keep compressing the garbage there. Also, the trucks have to go up one side of the street, turn around, and go down the other side because all the garbage cans aren't all on one side of the street. So if you could consider having either the workmen go across the street or have people put their garbage cans all on one side of the street, it would save a lot of wear and tear on our streets. Also, more about the damage. Do we need to ask Morro Bay Garbage Company to fix our streets? The Orcas Street near Panorama has torn up pavement. Could the trucks go down the hill from Panorama there so that it doesn't keep turning up the street on its way up that way? Also, at the waterfront, has overflowing garbage cans every morning, especially near the Triangle parking lot. It smells bad, and the seagulls go and pull out all the garbage and spread it around. Do those people need more pickups? Do they need more cans so the lids could close? Whatever they need to do. The company is asking for a 3.5% increase and a longer contract. Perhaps this is a good time to review some of the concerns about collection in Morro Bay. Also, if I have a minute, regarding D2, I'd like to say please give more consideration to the MOC for Trident Wind's wind turbines, and I know that a lot of people are here to speak on that, so I'll defer to them on most of it. I just want to say the wildlife, our mammals, birds are in danger if we have these wind turbines. It's known that hundreds of thousands of birds are killed every year by the wind turbines. We have kelp beds that are important to the feed for our young fish and animals. Thank you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. Public comment is open. For those who'd like to come speak, please come forward.
Good evening. Good evening. Does this work? Good. Good evening. My name is Chuck Stoll. I live here in Morro Bay, and I'm also president of the Senior Citizens, Inc. And, before I begin, I'm going to just use 20 seconds to commend and congratulate the Morro Bay and Bloom Group, and especially the leader of leaders, I should say, both Walter and Jane Heath. They have done a terrific job with this. I've been privileged enough to be able to work with both of them, and I think this organization actually was initially began back 2 years ago when Mayor Irons made a proposal that we take a serious look at America in Bloom. And so I also want to thank you, Mayor Irons, because this is really an accomplishment, what has just recently occurred. And so, Walter, I really want to thank you for that. And Jane, it's very impressive. And we have a great trailer out there now with all of our equipment in it. The thing that strikes me, the common thread here is so many people are so concerned about the quality of life. And that is such a positive thing. I mean, many of us retired here. Many of us have lived here for a few years, many more years. And quality of life, I think, is probably the key. And that's a common thread, I think, among most of the speakers. In fact, all of the speakers. This LEAP proposal, that plan that you presented this evening, I was just once again reading the LEAP proposal, benefits of bringing pickleball to Morro Bay. I mean, that's how in depth this report became, and Mr. Heading, he addressed that as well, as that there are so many benefits that we could gain from this report. I also would like to mention very quickly more on pickleball, is that we have a very active senior center, very active Seniors Inc., and our members, many of which are pickleball players, are very, very anxious to have some permanent courts. We have done some studies, and I believe your packet of information has those studies in it. Both court usage of the existing facility and also a year-end report, which I think outlines very clearly that we could make better use of that facility. We now have about 125 players every week out there on that roller hockey rink that is not being very well utilized at the time, and we would very much like to use it as permanent courts. And it's up to you to help us with that endeavor. So thank you very much. I do appreciate the time. And thank you again for Mayor Irons for your work on this Morro Bay and Bloom.
Thank you, Chuck. Public comment is still open. For those who'd like to come forward, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to council. And first off, American Bloom, thanks for the work and congratulations on that award. And there's congratulations to go out to many of the beautification groups in the city that have been participating in their beautification efforts. American Bloom, through our Morro Bay and Bloom organization, was able to, pull those judges together and get this prestigious award there, so to recognize all the work in the city that's going on. So thanks there. Eric, I just have a question. I'm looking to you because the acoustic testing and the Lands Commission, do you get contacted for those types of things? How does that work?
Yes, I am on. I've signed myself up for State Lands Commission notifications.
Is your mic on? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, good.
Is that better?
Yeah, thanks.
I guess I need to yell into it. I am on State Lands Commission's notification list. I signed up for that back in the PG&E HES days. And I do get regular notifications. I just received a notification yesterday of a pre-survey notice. I have not looked into the details of it. It doesn't indicate on the surface whether it's high energy, low energy, or what. Looking at it real quickly in the maps that they provided, it's part of what the power plant is doing. They have to apply to state lands to remove their oil pipelines where they used to tanker oil in and bring it to the power plant. To remove those pipelines, they're required by state lands to apply for that application. And we met Public Works, Community Development. We met with power plant and their environmental folks a few weeks ago about that process and what they're intending to do. At that time, they made no indication as to what sort of surveys or whatnot they need to do to make it so. They just gave us a general rundown of what their plan was to remove those pipelines and the permitting process that they went to. So I'll be looking into this application to see exactly what it means, but that appears to be what it is for.
So does the city have any policy in place to address seismic testing other than the effort that took place a couple of years ago with the acoustic testing for PG&E off of Diablo Canyon?
No, nothing the city's officially put in place since then other than the stances we took back then when it was the high energy seismic testing.
Did you have a comment?
I was just going to note that that Dynegy is, as Eric said, met with staff to let us know about some survey work they were doing pursuant to removing that oil pipeline, and that the removal is not scheduled until the earliest summer of 2016, actually 2017.
Yeah, it's a couple of years out.
So it's several years out. As Eric just said, the seismic testing is, we just heard about it yesterday. That was not something that was part of the discussion, and we'll jump right into it.
Okay, thanks. So to respond to Marlo's question, I guess that explains how we all heard about that. Certainly for public comment, it's always the opportunity for you to come and address council. And there's also the opportunity to write emails, and public comment is closed. Marlo, I see you coming up. This is our response period. I didn't get into dialogue with you while you were speaking, nor did I do with anybody else. So I just want to respond, and then we'll also respond, and then get back to the rest of the meeting. Any other comments for that, Noah?
Yes, thank you. I do think it's important, because this is emerging information, that we take some action recognizing the city's historic stance and the sensitivity of this issue. Just recently, I think we have a precedent already established to understand how much the community is concerned about these sort of activities. And my concern is that we, I think a future agenda item might be appropriate, but at the same time, the timeliness of that is unknown. I'm not sure how quickly this is moving. So I guess I'd like to hear what staff can do in the near term to push for some strong public information and understanding of what the proposal is and how comments could be made, and the program can be affected, so we make sure that it's protecting the environment and fishing interests and so forth.
I guess you're looking for an answer. We're certainly going to look into this, as Dave said when we spoke to Dynegy previously. They had a preliminary survey, bathymetric survey that showed basic bottom contours. They didn't indicate one way or another whether they needed to. I'm assuming, and this is just me thinking out loud, that they feel they need to do some sort of a higher energy testing to figure out exactly how deep those pipelines are. They indicated that they were probably 8 to 10 feet down below the sand when initially put in, and at this point, who knows how much sand has covered them up or uncovered them. So my guess is they need something to get a little deeper down in the bottom. And like I said, I just got the notification yesterday. I haven't looked deeply into it to see exactly what it entails, but I will be doing that.
So do you feel like you have the discretion to write a letter basically recognizing that this is a very sensitive practice here in our community, and that encouraging them to provide as much community information and input opportunities as possible? Can't hear you. Oh, thank you. My bad. So I'm wondering if you feel, staff, you have the discretion to send a letter communicating to the State Lands Commission and the power plant company that there is a precedence of serious concern about these sort of activities within the community, and that we would like to make sure that the public's offered the opportunity to comment and review the proposal before any actions or decisions are made?
Absolutely. We'd be happy to do that.
And I'll definitely be contacting Dynegy, at least by email or telephone, get that conversation going.
Considering the concerns about this and the historical passion regarding this, it would be good to have any sort of communication available to the public, whether posted, so it's clear.
John?
Once again, I think it's indicative of the lack of partnership that Dynegy exhibits to this community. It irritates me greatly, and I'd like to take, number one, I'd like to take it up the ladder with them. And second, if it would require, once we do get the information and have the opportunity to assimilate it and act, if it would require any kind of involvement of our legislative folks, that you would let us know, and we would appropriately lobby them. Again, I say appropriately depending upon the information that does come back. But I'm concerned, again, as always, about the lack of information and communication that we get from Dynegy.
Point taken. Okay, so just to conclude with some of the other remarks, do you want to respond to the seismic testing or other public comment?
No, I would. I think it's. Yeah. I just would like to thank Ms. Bruton and Sadowski for bringing it forward. I didn't know. I think hopefully you saw the response here is that we weren't aware. If it's something, an alert that came out yesterday, perhaps on a listserv that individually we aren't signed up for, I think you could see that our staff don't have a ready answer as to why that was released yesterday about the acoustic nature of the testing. We were aware of the testing, but I think that given that this community experienced less than 2 years ago incredible outpouring of folks, I would say activists against any kind of acoustic testing, seismic testing, I think that it would be in our best interest as a city to move forward to find out exactly what the information is and get it out to the public. Otherwise, we're going to have people continuing to come and ask for that information. So, but I appreciate knowing. Thank you. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Christine. And let's see, I think we had a couple more. Anybody else for a public comment response? John?
I would like Mr. Pannoni to respond to Ms. Winholtz's comments regarding the presence of, quote unquote, our attorney at a Grilly hearing today. Joe, would that be?
Certainly will. I think it was three of your employees were subpoenaed by the Grilly's attorney. Two of your employees were, that's right, there was a third that couldn't make it. There were two that subpoenaed to appear, and the subpoena was from the Grilly's attorney to have them testify. We're not really sure what they were going to be asked to testify to, but they were being asked to show up at court and testify. And because they were city employees, they weren't going to be represented by either the Grilly's attorney or the Krause's attorney, who's the other party to the action, and so we asked whether the staff wanted an attorney there to help if in case there were questions that were asked that shouldn't be asked, or in case there were arguments that should be made that they shouldn't be subpoenaed in the first place. We wanted to know whether or not the staff wanted an attorney there, and we were told that yes, they wanted an attorney there, and so we had an attorney there.
If I could add, that was my decision. I'll make it again tomorrow. When your staff, my staff, is subpoenaed to appear in a case where they would not otherwise be represented by our city attorney, it is wise both for them individually and for the city to have some sort of representation. Also, double note that this is the civil action between the Grillies and their neighbor. The city was not involved in this action and would not have been at that hearing until the Grillies' attorney subpoenaed our staff to be there. And when they subpoenaed our staff to be there, I asked our attorneys to go to represent our staff to protect their interest and the interests of the city.
Just for also full disclosure, there was also a declaration that was prepared by us for one of your staff members to sign, because there were statements being made by the Grillies that just weren't true, and so we wanted to make sure that the person who knew the facts wrote the facts down and gave the facts to the court so the court would have the correct facts.
Thank you for that. Unfortunate, but that's the steps we're going through.
I would like to ask Mrs. Merrill, I sit on the Integrated Waste Management Board. If you could get a list, and I do have what I'm sure the city clerk will have in the minutes, and I can review the tape, but I certainly would like to get all of your complaints down to be able to take directly to the board as a concerned citizen input to that board and address it through that route. So I just wanted to respond to that.
Great job.
May I also add on that subject that item B1 is the rate increase for organic diversion and only the rate increase. The staff decided not to consider the company's contract extension, which they've requested, because we want to address all of those kind of concerns that Ms. Merrill brought up and other improvement options as part of a broader contract negotiation. So this is the issue tonight is simply is quite discrete. It is a rate increase to deal with a state-mandated organic diversion, and the staff looks forward to negotiating well with the waste management company and with other companies to ensure that we get the best waste management service, both from a service perspective and a cost perspective going forward.
And so my response would be, I totally understand what the agenda item is, and being a member of that board, what I was looking for was the ability to review those inputs and ask Ms. Merrill, invite her to actually come to give public comment at our next meeting and make that available to her. So that was lost it. That was the intent of the gaining of the information. So thank you.
Okay, John? No?
Mr. Mayor, I can hold my comments regarding the land because I have it on another item that I want to discuss in response to Mr. McIlvain's presentation, if you'd like, or I can address it now, whichever you prefer.
Are there any other comments, or do we might want to? I think we might all want to have some comments on that as far as that goes. Yeah.
I have another brief one before that.
Okay.
But I don't. Is that?
I have one.
Okay. Go ahead, Christine, on yours, and then Noah, and then we'll discuss the McIlvain.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just a quick one. I know that pickleball has been something that's been, again, sorry for the pun, bounced around a lot. I'm wondering where it is in terms of the rec commission. Has it been there? Is it coming back? And should council do something about it, or is it coming? Just a little update on that. Thank you.
So our hope right now is that in November I'll actually be bringing a recommendation to the RPC to consider regarding pickleball, specifically having them make a recommendation to you regarding permanent court space at Del Mar Park. And so right now we are in the investigation phase regarding costs of that. It's been somewhat difficult to get a hold of the companies involved, but I think this is the next step forward. So yeah, we are literally right on track with it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That would be it. Then agreeing to want to hear some response from Mr. McElvain. Thank you.
Thanks. Noah, you have one?
Yeah, just briefly, Ms. Merrill also mentioned the concern about overflowing trash cans, and we have recognized that, and at the, I believe, last council meeting agendized a review of how trash and recycling receptacles are working currently, particularly considering the expansion of the Harbor Walk and Bridge and looking at the high traffic public areas. So we'll be working through the Public Works Advisory Board, and Mr. Levick has a comment on that, it looks like, as well. If that's okay.
What I took from Ms. Merrill's comments was not the public trash cans, but the ones associated with the businesses. If they're in the Triangle parking lot, they are not public trash cans or dumpsters that are associated with businesses, and they need to increase the frequency of pickup, and we can work with those businesses to do such. Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. Well, let's move on to one of the other questions. And John, I know you were active and want to discuss that, and I think the rest of us would as well. Mr. McElvain's comments?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm impassioned by Mr. McElvain's outrage, and I just feel like I want to apologize for that, and I'm not sure what I'm apologizing for, but I do, because personally I've been asking on numerous occasions for the status of the MOU development and or agreement on the land as processes move forward. The reason for that really had to do with my concern for, one, liability for the city and or the landowner, and then number two, the potential of losing the property and not in essence having a place to go. It just made common sense to me that if you've identified a site, that acquisition and a process involved in acquisition that's fervent, active, reported on routinely, is extremely important to this council as we move forward in doing very expensive studies that are now totaling in the millions of dollars that could be done for naught. Thusly, I express that outrage and concern as I have all along. And so I know staff will want to respond to that, and I will certainly listen to that response, but I am very concerned and would be hesitant to approve anything on any agenda in the future until there is an agreement that has been reached for this property. And so,
okay, I know there's Noah. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I am looking forward to some staff response. And we have talked quite a bit about this and spent numerous hours visiting Mr. McElvain's property and reviewing all the different options and seeing that rise to the top for a number of good reasons. And seeing that Mr. McElvain is a willing landowner through this process to date has been a real benefit. And as we've established the goals of the project, many relate to using that space with respect to the neighborhood and him as a property owner. And I see a couple of things here which I'm expecting staff can work out directly with Mr. McElvain very soon here. But the idea of jointly locating ancillary facilities like the city's courtyard, which needs to be rebuilt on the site, to me was a bonus. But it should not threaten the potential of locating the number one objective, which is the water reclamation facility and treatment plant. So, I'm hoping that what we're seeing is some some discussion that may have been misinterpreted by Mr. McIlvaine as this is what absolutely must happen. I don't see it that way at all. I see our objectives laid out and can clearly understand where the priorities are, and I'm expecting we're going to be able to work out something that Mr. McIlvaine will be happy to sign as we've talked about. We also have to be careful, though, that we can't commit too far to one specific location until we've gone through an authentic environmental review, and that's one of the things we're signing tonight, and it's important that we do not commit too far to make sure that it doesn't create a situation where our environmental review could be challenged based on too far of progress on a specific location until we've actually analyzed it to the degree that we can prove that it is indeed the best location.
Thanks, Noah. And I just wanted to echo some of the comments that both you and John have spoken about as well. And Mr. McIlvaine, you've been a willing partner and come to the city from early on, which is really to your credit and why we're here. Maybe this particular situation isn't the best of reasons why we're here, and I apologize for that as well. I believe the city and you and Mr. McIlvaine and your families have really had a pretty good relationship working through this, and I'm hoping that we'll have this discussion and many more getting through this. Is in regards to the MOU, I think we brought that up before. There has been that has been echoed by other council members through different meetings before, is about the concern and the need to get that MOU out there that may have really kind of identified what we're looking at or what you brought to us today. The way it was explained to us is we can't go into an MOU until that environmental impact report is done. So I'm sure staff will clarify some things on that, but I know there's some processes that we're trying to step through appropriately. With that, I'll turn my comments over to Ms. Johnson, and then staff has the opportunity to respond as well.
Well, to make a teeny tiny joke, I knew we were in trouble when I saw the tie tonight. And the reason I know that is because the reason I say it is because I know Mr. McIlvaine has been in the room for, sometimes he has been the only public person in the room otherwise engaged for us, and he's stayed late, and he's heard honestly every item we've been talking about for the last 2 to 3 years. And naturally, he has a very intense interest, but it's always been a relationship that I think we would all agree has been friendly, respectful, businesslike, and with a common goal. And he has a facility there that will be great to integrate into our larger facility for his purposes, for his land as well. So I think that what I'd like to comment on is this is something that the council has not approved. I want to make that super clear that it doesn't say draft on it, but I wrote to myself draft, so I would not confuse this in the future. But this is the beginning of what we did a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago now, engaging Black & Veatch and helping us sort out the specifics of the land. So clearly there's communication that we need to have on the specifics of what is comfortable for the McIlvaines on the property. And I would assume, and I'm sure we'll hear from staff as soon as we're able to, reconvene with Mr. McIlvaine and have those discussions, and then quickly resolve some of the confusion that perhaps has happened in this first draft of us trying to get our head around what we're going to do and what size we do need. But we've been pretty clear all along in the same consistent message about size and use, and I think Mr. McIlvaine has been here and knows that. So looking forward to quick resolution of this, let's say, negotiation. So thank you. And I hope you go back to more casual clothes, Mr. McIlvaine, in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Buckingham?
Happy to. Staff, too, is looking forward to a quick resolution with Mr. McIlvaine and with the council. So back in January, when we said full speed ahead on the Rancho Colina site, the guidance we got was to get moving, go full speed ahead, and that meant a simultaneous effort in a number of areas. So the council said start with the fatal flaws analysis and start with other contracts, including the facility master plan contract, to start moving toward Rancho Colina while we were working simultaneously on an MOU with Mr. McIlvaine. And we have been working on that MOU. We can, in fact, have an MOU. It just needs to be qualified that we're not committed to that site until the environmental work, until that site is cleared environmentally. But so we've been working on that MOU. Mr. Livick has met a number of times with Mr. McIlvaine. I have previously, about a month and a half ago, as we worked on that. And actually recently, based on some of the concerns that Mr. Heading and others have expressed about firming up that MOU, we sort of did a rewrite of it in the last month. Because we looked a little bit closer, we realized that we could make it stronger in the sense of a commitment to sell the property instead of what was originally a little bit looser. So we are quite concerned that we do have something that the city can be confident in, since we are starting to expend a significant amount of money on this project. So we were working a simultaneous effort. And then last week, we got the Black and Veatch initial site diagram. That was generated with all of the council's priorities in mind and staff priorities. And absolutely, and one of the first things I told Mr. McIlvaine when we met Friday was that we overstepped some boundaries on this sort of draft plan. For example, one of the ideas is put solar in, and our contractor noted several places that solar could go. We have no intent or interest in putting solar anywhere north of the east-west road that sort of has been traditionally the demarcation line that has been in previous discussions. Totally agree that the priority here is a water reclamation facility. That is the priority. That's what we're looking to put in. And then if there is space that is agreeable to the landowner, the council, to do other objectives, for example, a courtyard and or solar to support, probably should say that in the other direction, solar to support and power the reclamation facility, and then courtyard or other things that will allow us to get out of the current or redevelop the current existing wastewater treatment plant 26-acre site, then we want to do that. And so Mr. McIlvaine very quickly on Friday asked to meet, rightly, because he saw this and was quite concerned. We spent an hour and a half or so with him on Friday afternoon, and then I sent him a note this morning. I met with staff on yesterday to look at some of the concerns that Mr. McIlvaine had, to do a quick assessment. Sent Mr. McIlvaine a note this morning that's included in the packet you had that started to balance some of these concerns and some of the city interests. And I look forward to working with him and you and with our consultants to confirm our site and get an MOU for that site as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Mr. Buckingham. Any further questions in this regard from council? Christine?
Just a quick process question. So I know that we're talking about something that we've decided previously, so we're okay with things. But if we wanted to specifically address the MOU timing or date, would we make that as a future agenda item this evening? Or is that coming up to us somewhere else?
I believe that's on a timeline, if I recall. I mean, we've had that discussion, and that's part of that's been discussed. I mean, we can revisit it, but
just the specific.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a short agenda item, no doubt.
Yeah.
Would be something I would want to see come back quickly. It wouldn't take a lot. I mean, we've been talking about it. I've seen a draft at some point in my time here. But I do think it's important for us to address it as quickly as possible. And I think we need to bring it back if we can, or if it's coming elsewhere. But I don't want to wait. I'm just trying to figure out how we do that publicly and with time in mind.
The staff is working to get that MOU complete with Mr. McIlvaine as quickly as possible. It will come to you for approval, and we're working to do it as quickly as possible. I'm trying to think if the council could set a deadline.
I just don't think we can do that. I don't think we can. What I'm curious about is I don't think we can direct staff right here, right now, about timing for returning an MOU. Like I don't think we can say we want it back in 30 days. I don't think we don't have the latitude to do that outside the agenda today. So that's what I'm wondering about.
No, you have the ability to set something for a future agenda.
Correct, but we're unable to direct. Let's say we can't direct staff tonight, right now, to return to us in 30 days with an MOU. Like I can't say that to Mr. Buckingham. Like we'd like to see this come back in 30 days.
You mean because practically you can't, or because you don't think legally you can?
I'm just asking about what our latitude is to direct staff
legally
right now within the agenda planning. Like, are we able to say
legally with regard to the Brown Act?
Yes, legally.
Okay.
Yes.
The council can take an action to place something on a future agenda, and you can direct what it is you want placed on that future agenda.
Right, at the end of the meeting, under future agenda items.
Yep. Whenever you want.
Right, but my question then, I thank you for the clarification on my question. So what I'm asking is, if all four of us here right now said we'd like to see that come back in 30 days, to make a motion to do that now, or can it not come back?
I'm guessing that if there was a consensus of four to say, bring it back in 30 days, your city manager would make sure it was brought back in 30 days.
And we're within the bounds of ourselves. We can do that. Okay, well, I'm throwing that back to council.
And so I think under declaration of future agenda items, if you want to agendize it and we want it back in 30 days is the question, in which you reaffirmed that that's what we would do under future agenda items.
Just if
Be
I
more
may,
specific in the agenda.
I understand why you'd want a date certain, but that could add pressure to the negotiation. So if you were to say as soon as reasonably or as soon as feasibly possible, get it back to you, that may be a better thing than set a specific date.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yep, thanks. Any other comments from council on this? With that, thank you. That concludes our discussion with public comment, and thanks for everybody and their input and help with all that tonight. We'll move on to the consent agenda, and with consent, we have 12 items on consent, and we'll open it up for public comment for any items on consent, and then we'll ask council if there's any items to pull. So I'll open it up for public comment for anybody who'd like to speak to any item on consent. Seeing none, I'll close public comment, and I have a couple items I'd like to pull. Item A3, item A5, and item A7. Anything else for items to be pulled?
A10.
Okay. Anything else? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve all items on consent with the exception of items A3, A5, and A7, and A10. Motion by Christine, second by Noah. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item A3, I talked to our city clerk, Brooke as well about this, and just wanted to bring this back. I know chronically there were some things that were, and I think I communicated with Brooke as well. We had moved things around on the agenda, and the minutes didn't really reflect that. So my request is to just bring it back to reflect how we moved things on the agenda. And I think we had one motion in the middle of the minutes where we extended beyond 11 o'clock, and it was not quite in the chronicled order. So I was just going to make that request, and maybe we can come back next item. And then item A5. Item A5 is proclamation declaring October 18th through 24th Freedom of Workplace Bullies Week. I pulled that just to make a couple of announcements in that regard, and I could go ahead and read the proclamation. But at our last council meeting during the Marine Sanctuary, there was I had some report back that there was some contention in the audience, and forgive me if I don't hear all that, but when I looked at this proclamation for Freedom of Workplace Bullies Week, I think we need to be thinking about that out in the community as well, and especially in this room. When we come to this room, Marlo, you come here, everyone that comes here to speak to council, you're impassioned to speak about what you want to speak about, and you should have the freedom to do that without someone else and in essence bullying you or threatening you or degrading you in any way. So this is my public service announcement, along with this Freedom for Workplace Bullies Week, that for us to be considerate and thoughtful to one another as we come to these council meetings and speak, both to council members. I know we all get impassioned about what we want to talk about, but give each other the respect to say what we want to say. And hopefully if we're making that message respectfully, we can all get our points across, and we don't have any remarks or any types of activity out in the audience that are discomforting, because everybody should have the ability to come up and say what they want to say at the microphone at public comment times. And that's my public service announcement for the proclamation for Freedom for Workplace Bullies Week. And then finally, item A7 is the WRF, and this is just a technical one for Mr. Livick. And let me get to that. I know this will come back to us. Basically, on attachment 1, there is a calculation error under the JFR Consulting site. It's the very top calculation, and I talked to you ahead of time. Just want to make sure when we come back and review that we get those calculations corrected.
Sure, and I think we need to add another column, because what we don't include in there is reimbursables. So we need to check that, because it's not in the mix. There's probably a couple $1,000s in copying that they did that is a reimbursable item that we don't see in the calculation. So we need to add that in there, so we can make that clear in the report. And we're as we move forward, this report will change with a little bit more detail because we're about to embark on some project management software that gives us those tools to get much better executive level reports. Much more better. Yes. Thank you.
All right, great. And item 810, Mr. Heading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Find my notes. The under fiscal impact, and I did email Mr. Rickenbaugh, Mr. Nunley, and I copied Mr. Live as well as the city manager, just FYI. And got a very nice response back from Mr. Nunley detailing some issues. But the unanswered question that remained for me in terms of clarity was, it appeared that there's an absolute statement in fiscal impact that says it's anticipated either a water or wastewater rate increase will also be needed to fully offset the cost of the program beyond the first phase, in order to fully incorporate the most beneficial water reuse project that will provide additional water supply benefits. And it gives a date certain of 2021. And it does say anticipated. I'm wondering how that was arrived at. I went back and I reviewed the study that was done by the actuarial firm. And gave some numbers to Mr. Nunley, but haven't quite gotten to the answer that I think I'm looking for with regard to that. So I don't know, Mr. Buckingham, if you want to address that, or
yeah, happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.
The water rate increase, water and sewer rate increase that the council approved in July was based on phase 1 construction of the WRF, and reviewed minutes today and the presentation that we used, and that was quite clear in there, and we can't increase rates beyond 5 years. So what we projected were in that and publicized were those rates were set in order to support construction of Phase 1, the $75 million phase of the reclamation-ready wastewater treatment plant. And what this says, and as we've discussed, we go through right now, there's a 30% contingency on that project. So we obviously are working to bring it in under that budget. But so the rates are currently set in order to fund the $75 million, up to $75 million Phase 1. And then what this says is it is anticipated when we construct Phase 2 that we will have to look at water and sewer rates again in 5 years to ensure that the rates are set in order to do the construction of Phase 2. And a large part of that also is making sure that that as we go through our capital spending on both the water side and the sewer side in the next 5 years for the plant, that we look at potential at other areas of the city's budget, including possible water reuse and savings on the water side, that we get we get the rates right, and we'll look at that again with you and 4 years, looking forward to the 5th year as we're making determinations with you on whether to construct Phase 2 and what the budget is for that.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I appreciate that. That clarification was mainly for the audience, by the way, so thank you. And one question that I had also was, I believe in the initial study by Bartles and Wells, if I'm correct, the assumption made was that Cayucas was a player.
That's correct. That was also noted in the council meeting at which we approved. You approved the water and sewer rate increase because there was concern at that point about Cayucas had recently withdrawn. So the water and sewer rate increase was based on a 25% Cayuga share in the water treatment plant, or in the new water reclamation facility. And briefly, what we talked through at that time was that there was a 10% contingency built into the water and sewer rate increase, and we would, if Cayucas is not a participant, be building a smaller plant, which would be less expensive. So we approved the water and sewer rates as you approved them as presented, even though Cayucas, we knew Cayucas may not be a participant in the new reclamation facility.
Thank you. Again, that helped me clarify the answer by Mr. Nunley, which was different. And I also, quite coincidentally, was going to ask about the land again. But I will ask Mr. Pannoni one question now that does, that I'm not sure about, and that is, if indeed this contract moves forward and the EIR must be done, obviously, is there a contract between the landowner and or this entity or agent that would be signed in order to protect that individual and offer some indemnification, or does it just happen? In other words, there's no relationship whatsoever, and this study is going to be done on the property of another landowner that we have no relationship with. And I guess my question is there anything that's required in order for that study to be done to be able to use that land and either indemnify us and or any other entity like the consultant? And if I'm not being clear,
unless we need to get access to the site to do the study, which we probably would need to get access to the site for parts of the study,
right,
and we'd need the property owner permission to get access to that site.
Right.
The city can do, anyone can do any kind of a study on somebody else's property. as long as they aren't going on the property. But since we need to go on the property, we need them to at least give us the right to go on the property, even if they never sign an MOU.
Right.
The MOU would, in essence, the way the MOU is now structured, leaving the exhibit showing what's going to be covered, I'm leaving that out. I'm just talking about the guts of the MOU. It's going to create the commitment on the seller's part to commit to sell the property to the city and to protect the city and the project from that fact that you can't make the commitment until the environmental is done. The city's going to have the option to not buy it. There'll be an option payment for the right to hold that property for that long.
Okay. So are you recommending before this process begins, if we approve this tonight, that there be any document or contract signed between the city and the landowner?
If the MOU is able to be signed before the need to access the property happens, we don't need a separate document. If we need to have that access before the MOU is signed, then we should have some permit, just the right of entry agreement, if the property owner is willing to give us that.
Great. And so then I would plead mercy on the property owner for said access. Thank you.
Any other comments for these items that were pulled? With that,
I think this, just to clarify for me, Mr. Levick, I believe that our WRF-CAC Citizens Committee was set on the process to review and select the firm.
Yes, we had a subcommittee that sat on the selection interview panel. They reviewed all the applications and participated in the interviews, and they are recommending, yes, they recommended that to the full WRF-CAC, and the WRF-CAC is also recommending to you to use environmental science associates to perform the CEQA analysis.
Okay, so I just took advantage of it being pulled to thank the volunteers on those committees for.
They were very valuable in the selection.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you. So
thanks Christine,
thanks
for
to
doing
them.
that. Yep.
Sure.
And with that, I would take a motion make a motion to approve items A3, A5, A7, and A10.
Second.
Motion by Jamie, a second by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Approved 4-0. That concludes our consent agenda. Would the council entertain a short recess before we get into public hearings, or do we want to just motor through these? 5 minutes, so we'll be back by 8:37. We'll take a short recess and be back at 8:37. Thank you. Okay, folks, thank you. The recess, as it might have gone a little bit longer. So we're starting on public hearings. We have 2 items for public hearings, and I just want to hear from folks in the audience. Is anybody here to speak to the public hearing for the Morro Bay garbage service rate? Seeing none, I know we have some people in the audience for the approval for the conditional use permit. With council approval, I'd like to just roll those 2 items. Sorry, it should be rather brief, and just get back to doing the Fisherman's Family Sculpture is the move that item up, and then we'll go right into the public hearing for the garbage rate. Is there agreement? Okay. Sorry, Janine. So if we can move on to item B2, which is the approval of a conditional use permit, UPO 424, for concept and precise plans to erect a Fisherman's Family Sculpture statue on Coleman Drive near Target Rock and the southeast of Morro Rock. And thanks for shuffling around at the last minute, folks. With that, I'll turn it over to staff.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the Council. This is conditional use permit UP 0424. The applicant is requesting final conditional use permit approval for a new memorial statue known as the Fisherman's Family Sculpture. On the screen is a statue location of where it is proposed to be, approximately 100 feet southeast of Morrow Rock at the base and west of Target Rock, This item is before the City Council because pursuant to the city's municipal code in Title 17, the Plan Development Overlay Zone requires City Council approval as the final step. Planning Commission heard this item on its September 1st, 2015 meeting and has forwarded a favorable recommendation for approval to the City Council, which is presented to the Council as a combined concept precise plan approval. In addition, the project is located in the original jurisdiction of the Coastal Commission and would be required to either apply for a coastal development permit or seek a waiver. Staff outreach to Coastal Commission staff has indicated that they are
supportive?
Yeah, that's the word, supportive of a waiver. So at that September 1st Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission did not add any additional conditions to the project as what's proposed to you in the resolution for approval. The Commission did have brief discussion that evening regarding topics of lighting, potential vandalism, and whether or not the statue would be obscured by cars parking in front of it. The next few slides I've prepared show exactly where the statue would be and some images of the statue. As discussed in the staff report, this is a statue of a mother, son, and daughter proposed as a tribute to families of mariners. So here is the location that, as I said, it's 100 feet southeast of the base of Morrow Rock, and the location circled in red, and Target Rock is shown to the north on your slide. Because Morrow Rock is identified as environmentally sensitive habitat area, the city's local coastal plan does require a minimum buffer setback of 100 feet, and this is shown on the plans as well. Here's a street view image. This is taken from Google Earth. It's showing that the statue would be placed on the bay side of Coleman Drive and near some existing benches. Access to Morrow Rock would not be hindered or precluded from placement of the statue, nor would it be in the area where the automobiles are driving along Coleman Drive. These next few slides show the images of the proposed bronze statue pieces, as shown to the Planning Commission. The height and scale of the statue has been sized also to not detract from the visual quality of the Morrow Rock area. The proposed height is approximately 5 feet 9 inches and mounted on a concrete base approximately 18 inches tall. And let me back up for a moment. So as I said, this is a mother, daughter, and son with fishing pole in various poses, and it would be facing the bay side. Here's an image of what a side view image of what the statue would look like mounted on its concrete base. City's general plan and LCP policies discuss the importance of this planning area, with Morrow Rock as, of course, the city's major landmark and visual focus for the area. The memorial statue has been cited to not detract from this visually important area, and as proposed, the statue would offer a passive recreational opportunity for viewing by both pedestrians and motorists, consistent with the general plan and local coastal plan. Therefore, staff recommends that the City Council adopt Resolution 6615, accepting the Planning Commission's favorable recommendation for approval of conditional use permit UP 0424 as both a combined concept and precise plan approval. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Thanks very much, Janine, or Cindy. Janine's out there. We're going to do that a couple times tonight, I'm sure. Any questions from council for staff?
Just a brief one. Thanks for the presentation. Just curious, I know with the interpretive panel that's there or proposed seemed to be mostly focused on sponsors, but I didn't see anything specific to actual information or historical context of the fishing industry and heritage. So if there's a way to either with applicants or for you to confirm that they would take advantage of that opportunity as well.
That it hasn't been proposed to the city. It's indicated on the plans that they would just be for sponsor tiles. Whether the applicant intends to reserve some of those sponsor tiles for interpretive information, they may be able to address that during their public comments.
Any other questions?
I just had a brief question. I was watching the Planning Commission meeting and them discussion of this item, and I asked a question of Ms. Jans that there was discussion at that meeting about whether or not previous council, this council, how far back it went, that there was a plan there was a plan approved to extend the harbor walk to the statue. There was some discussion about that had happened, or where was that plan? So maybe if you could just address that, because I think it's a good discussion to have, and I thought, let's clarify what past councils may or may not have agreed to in terms of extending the harbor walk to where the statue was planned to go.
Sure. So I believe this is in reference to the city's northern waterfront improvement plan. It was discussed by Recreation and Parks at council meetings in 2012 and 2013. There certainly has been a long effort to place a statue in this location going back years and years. At the time, the motion of the council was to, I believe, the research that staff did showed that although there was a plan, it was the direction to staff was to wait until the funds were available. That was the knowledge that I had on that.
Okay, great. So there hasn't been a plan that we're just not implementing about that. Oh, thank you, Mr. Graham.
So the information that Cindy provided you was backed up by Joe Woods. I had a fairly detailed conversation with him about that process and whether there were plans in place, to extend the harbor walk or not, because people had mentioned that to me when I started working here. And basically what it said is that the council had directed him not to pursue the redo of that plan in that area at the time. He had brought it before council, and that was decided not to pursue it at that time, and that it was going to be revisited later on. And to my knowledge, it's not come back.
Okay, so the plans are it may happen someday, but it wasn't something that council agreed to and then didn't yet accomplish. But it hasn't taken it off the table. It's just we're not moving on that at this point, although the statue is certainly ready to go, and the city's cooperating on getting that in.
Yeah, to my knowledge, that's an accurate statement, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all.
Thanks. John?
Thank you very much. I did get a copy of your email answering a couple of questions, and just to add on to that, this is solid bronze statue? Plated bronze?
The specific.
Is this a solid bronze through and through statue, or is it a certain amount of it on the external portion plated and the remainder something else in the core?
The information, I don't know. The information on the plans just said bronze.
Okay.
I think the
Maybe
applicant
that's a
could,
question for the applicant. And the reason I asked is it might impact maintenance long term.
Okay.
I did learn something. I looked up maintenance of bronze statues, and I did learn that because I was just interested in your comment that you made about fiscal impact, or the staff report basically said that maintenance costs would be absorbed by the consolidated maintenance budget, and the impact, I assume, would be minimal, which indeed I confirmed with regard to maintenance of the structure. Unless it's not completely through and through bronze, then there may be some issues. And the concern I had was if there was either damage, cracking, or whatever as a result of that, who's responsible for the repair?
So the applicant intends to dedicate the statue to the city upon completion. So if the city chooses to accept the statue, then it would be the city's responsibility.
Thank you.
No further questions? I just have one brief one. And I think I understand. I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. So there's no parking parameters or standards or guidelines or restrictions out on that in the Rock area. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement, yes.
Okay, good, thanks. With that, we'll open it up for public comment. For anybody who'd like to speak to this item, please come forward. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Irons and council members. My name is Kathy Novak, and I'm representing the Central Coast Women for Fisheries for this family statue this evening. After such a long time in the making, the CCWF is pleased to be at this hearing tonight, getting this project one step closer to reality. The CCWF is a nonprofit organization and has been diligently working to raise money for the installation and this important tribute to the commercial fishing industry for approximately 7 years. I also want to share that this has been done with all 100% volunteer efforts. The Fisherman's Family Sculpture will be located near Target Rock, overlooking the bay as a tribute to the families of mariners, notably commercial fishing families who wish their loved ones a bountiful trip and then await their safe return. As staff has noted in your report, the bronze life-size statue pieces will be mounted on a colored concrete base, which will be blended with the natural surroundings of the dirt area. The pieces include a wife waving goodbye to her husband as he heads out to sea for a fishing trip, while her daughter lovingly tugs at her coat and her son baits his fishing pole while sitting on a rock. The statue base also includes an area for 12-inch square black granite tiles that will display this statue sponsors. Since the sculpture is proposed near more rock designated as an esh, the project has been cited to maintain the 100-foot buffer from the base of the rock and no lights or other project components that would have an effect on the surrounding environment. All this makes up this project is consistent with the LCPs. As a side note, I contacted the Coastal Commission when we first started this drawing phase to discuss this project and the potential buffers. The Commission staff concurred with the buffer that was presented to them and expressed that this would qualify for a waiver with them. Last, we believe that sometime that the city may extend this harbor walk to this area and add benches. The proposal does not include any of these amenities, and it will be left up to the city for a future project if they desire. In conclusion, the CCWF believes this statue will be an asset to the community and visitors alike. They would also like to thank the city for the continued support of this project over the years, because once the statue is in place, the city of Morro Bay will enjoy this public art and be enjoyed by all. Last, I want to thank you once again for waiving the permit fees, which not only helps the CCWF, but sends a message to all that the city supports and recognizes the hardworking men and women and the importance of the commercial fishing industry in Morro Bay. That concludes my presentation, but I'll try to answer a couple of questions. The interpretive panel, there's not one proposed right now. The CCWF has been working hard to just raise enough money to get exactly what we've got. I think that would be something that they might like to consider, and then would just need to raise additional money. And if that's the case, maybe we could be putting it in the top of the concrete base rather than taking away from the sponsor tiles, because the sponsor tiles have been so important to raise money for this project. John, for your concern, it is solid bronze. It was cast at the foundry, and so solid bronze. So I'd be happy to answer the other questions you might have, and I appreciate your support. Thanks.
Thank you. Christine, question?
Yes, thank you. Thanks so much for the presentation. I think many people in the community are waiting for it, so it's exciting to see the project here. One question. The Planning Commission also mentioned this, and I don't recall if you had a chance to respond. Are you at all worried about vandalism in terms of lighting that came up at the Planning Commission? And I just thought we should ask you as well.
I think that there's always a concern that out in this particular area there could be some vandalism, but it's like any other areas in town. I think lighting is going to be a severe problem, so I don't want to see us go there for a number of reasons. One, the city and the Coastal Commission in the past has always required downcast lighting, so if we're trying to light up the statue, that would be going against the grain. I think we would have difficulties at the Coastal Commission. And another concern that was raised at the Planning Commission with lighting is the possible hazard of navigation for boaters coming in and out with lights out there. I've talked to the CCWF about when they're making the concrete base, that maybe we should be installing some of those little bumpers to prevent the skateboarding to go sliding across. That goes on quite frequently around this area. So hopefully with that being solid bronze, hopefully it will just, people will respect it. and if we have problems, we'll have to deal with it somehow.
Right. I agree. I think in general, it's a respectful community for sure. I just didn't know if you all had that concern and we weren't responding to that. But it sounds like for now, we'll not take that on as well. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Public comment is open for anybody who'd like to come forward.
Hi, I'm Lori French. I'm either president or vice president of CCWF. This is what happens when you don't show up at a meeting. Anyways, we'd like to thank the city for helping us along on this project. It's very important to us. It's very important to me personally to have the mom waving hello and goodbye. I'll be doing that in about 2 weeks to my husband and son and brother-in-law. And it's like we have a lot riding on this season, and just a little extra push for safety, good luck charm works. CCWF would also like to thank the Morro Bay 50th for their generous contributions. And we just received an extremely generous contribution from the Morro Bay Aquarium, and we'd like to publicly acknowledge that. They did not have to, and they did, and I think that got us up to our mark. We don't know. We won't have the final tally for a couple days yet. But we wanted to say thank you very much because they've been a very big part of this community, and that little push really helped. As for vandalism, let's just hope we don't have any idiots around. That's all I can say. The plaque, we will be... That's all I can say. I'm sorry. Call it like it is. The plaque... We've discussed it a little bit, but we have a meeting next week, and it will be brought up again because I personally would like to see it because the education is knowledge, or education is power, especially about our industry because it's kind of overlooked a lot of times. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Lori. Anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and bring it back to council for discussion. And Christine, you want to start us off with discussion?
Sure. I'll just echo what I said briefly after the presentation by the folks. And it's a beautiful project and exciting to have a new public art. I think we all love to see that in the community. It inspires other people to think of other exciting projects as well. It's been a long time, and I think it's been certainly a lot more people in the community became aware of the project, I do believe, through the 50th experience that we had and the celebration of the 50th. So it's a great way to bookend that project too. So I really have nothing but support for it, and I'd love to see it. Can't wait to see it in real life. So thank you.
Thanks, Christine. John?
I will echo everything that Christine said. I just want to thank you guys for fundraising and for maintaining a heritage that has existed for such a long time and is so steeped in this community that I think it's so important to do these kinds of things. And I congratulate you on your forethought on the beauty of the actual piece of art work that I see here. And I'm looking forward to riding my skateboard down there and not running into it and just kind of taking a look at it. And I know a good writer, by the way, when you need someone to write that caption, Lori. So thank you.
Noah?
Yes, thank you. And I would agree. This has been a long time coming, and I do want to encourage you to push for and for the city to work with you on the addition of an interpretive panel, because it is a good opportunity to give better context and understanding about what it means and the fishing industry in general. I'm not all that confident that we won't have a vandalism issue at some point, just knowing what occurred on South Bay Boulevard with the Los Osos bear at the bridges. It has me concerned about this. I think it's something we'll have to deal with and watch for and cross that bridge as it comes. But it would be interesting to take a look at some anti-graffiti application that might work with bronze. I know there's quite a few options for concrete and so forth, but I'd like to encourage that, just because there could be a low-cost application that would actually help protect this in case it is graffitied, and give us a better opportunity to clean it up without impacting the statue itself. So I'm not sure whether we should make that a condition, but I think if we did spend just a little time researching anything that would make sense, it would be worth it.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for those comments. Part of my parking question was in regard to the statue in the place, but more in regards to some of the comments from Planning Commission, at least from the staff report, as far as delineating and would cars kind of obscure the presence of that. So I'd like, some dialogue, discussion with council in the Morrill Rock parking lot. Over the last few years, we've used some of the rock to delineate a walkway. I think most everybody is familiar with what I'm talking about. So there's basically kind of the rock is a barricade for a buffer of a walkway that's right in front of the Morrill Rock Beach. And so I would suggest that we do something in that same light. So you basically create that buffer around the statue. It delineates it more. It adds some sort of protection. And I'm looking for some comments, I guess, from staff as far as how we were able to get the rocks to do what we did in the parking lot and what we could do to do that for the statue. I think it would work both in a way of creating that buffer for people to be there instead of it being a little bit of more of a lone object, and it would define that area, and whether or not we lose a parking spot or two, that's okay. I think it's worth that, and those are my comments. And I would just like to echo remarks from council as far as support on that. Not only is it a great art piece, it's a great story. There's a lot of thought and work into it. 7 years, that's a lot of work from all your volunteers. So, thanks to all the volunteers and contributors to bringing that forward. So those are my comments, and I would look for some, feedback as far as at least the suggestions I have on having some sort of the rock delineator around the project. And
I'll start on that. So first, I'll start by saying that the North Embarcadero strategic plan, as was described, should the council want to do that, and I think you should, that's something we should look at next year or the year after. But for us to go through the effort of what does that space look like in the years ahead, and so we want to do that. We've got plenty of plans we're working on this year, and so that would be a great one for next year. And then that said, I think it's absolutely the easy button for us to put in a sort of rock, nice-looking barricade that would delineate or separate that area, that would prevent cars or something from running into the statue. I suspect this is easy button and low cost, Rob and Eric.
Yes.
Good, that's great. It's easy button and low cost. We can make it happen.
Okay, great. Any further comments? Then all this would take is just do a motion to approve staff recommendation on this. Just make a motion to approve staff recommendation to adopt resolution number 6815, accepting the Planning Commission's favorable recommendation for approval of conditional use permit UPO 424 for both concept and precise plans for a new Fisherman's Family Sculpture Memorial on Coleman Drive near Target Rock in the southeast of Morrill Rock.
Mr. Mayor, just it's 66. I know it says 68, but it's 6615.
It's 66? Okay. So I will correct my motion to 6615. Thank you for that. And also to include in the motion the additions of the rock barricades to help delineate and protect. And that's the motion. Motion and a second by Noah. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 4-0. Thanks very much. And thanks for shuffling that around. Now we'll move to item B1. Item B1 is public hearing for and consideration of Morro Bay Garbage Service interim rate adjustment application and adoption of resolution 6515. Is that the correct number? Okay, good. Thanks, Janine. Sorry to shuffle you around.
No worries.
All right, good.
Thank you and good evening. Tonight you have before you consideration of an interim rate adjustment application, a rate increase for Morro Bay Garbage Service with regard to expansion of the organics or the green waste program based on some changes in state law that have occurred recently. Many of you know Waste Connections is the parent company of Morro Bay Garbage Service, as well as others such as South County Sanitary and San Luis Garbage, as well as being the owner of Cold Canyon Landfill. And with the closure of the green waste composting facility out at the landfill in late 2010, green waste has either been used as an alternative daily cover at the landfill, for which the state allows or has been providing a diversion credit for, or it has been transported to Engle and Gray in Santa Maria for composting. Since that time, there's been several changes and developments related to the management of organics, particularly over the last year and a half or so. There's specifically 2 assembly bills that occurred in 2014, 1826 and 1594 that were enacted. One establishing a mandatory organics program, management program that would include or require businesses to expand from just the green waste, but to also include food waste, which we currently don't have, as well as 1594, which would eliminate that diversion credit for alternative daily cover. Other composting regulations have come about from CalRecycle and the State Water Resources Control Board. The governor has set goals for reducing greenhouse gas to below 1990 levels of 40% below that by 2030. And in addition to the Air Resources Board issuing a concept paper earlier this year relating to setting goals for diversion of organics, 70% from the landfills by 2020 and 90% by 2025. So in the early spring of this year, the San Luis Obispo County Integrated Waste Management Authority, IWMA staff, presented to its board a progress report on the overall management of organics within the county, and they identified 3 potential providers that could manage the amount of organics for the region. And with recognizing a need for a comprehensive program for the whole region, Waste Connections issued an RFP to the 3 potential providers requesting they submit proposals that would address and handle the amount of organics waste within the region and the needs therein. So they got proposals back, they considered those, and then in May of this year came back to the IWMA board and made a presentation of their plan for a comprehensive organics program in the short term and over the long term. And what they were proposing was basically 2 phases, an interim phase or a short phase, which would start January 1. And what that would entail is the expansion of existing residential and commercial green waste programs to include the food waste. And in addition, so what would happen is the collection of the material would come to the landfill. It would be transitioned over to transfer trucks and taken to Engle and Gray in Santa Maria for processing. The second and permanent phase relates to the construction of a compogas anaerobic digestion plant out at their corporation yard in San Luis Obispo at the landfill. And what they would do is enter into a long-term agreement with HCI, who is the company who would design, finance, construct, own, and operate the facility for a number of years. And the second part within that relates to the contract extension that was mentioned earlier by the city manager that would be coming back to this council at a later date for consideration of. Because there would need to be basically a guarantee of a waste stream, so the organic stream. They need the organic stream in order to help with the financing for the construction of the facility. So staff will be reviewing that and be bringing that back at a later date for consideration. So tonight what you have before you is really just dealing with the rate increase request for expansion of the organics program starting January 1 and that second phase for the more permanent phase. The rate increase that's being requested specifically for Morro Bay garbage service is 3.22%. And Proposition 218 notice was developed and mailed out on August 28th. And in that notice, it indicated what the proposed increase was, the rate increase, what the proposed new rates would be, a description of the justification for that, as well as outlining the public hearing opportunity and opportunity for protesting of the rates. At the writing of this staff report, there were 2 written protests that were received by the city clerk's office. My understanding that as of yesterday, there were no additional protests received, and that's still true. So no additional protests have been received up to this point. So what I'd like to do is just indicate that Bruce Bassfield with Waste Connections is here tonight in case there are any questions from the council regarding the proposed rate increase and the 2-phased program that they're planning. So staff brought this to the Public Works Advisory Board at their September 24th meeting, and the Public Works Advisory Board was in concurrence with staff's recommendation, which is that the council hold the public hearing, consider all evidence and testimony presented, and to do 2 things. 1, to adopt Resolution 6515, increasing solid waste rates by 3.22%, effective January 1, 2016, provided that there is not a majority protest against such increase, and to begin implementing the expanded organics diversion program that would include the food waste as outlined in the staff report, and to end the use of alternative daily cover at Cold Canyon landfill. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the council for any questions or comments that you have and a recommendation from the council.
Thanks for the staff report, Janine. Are there any questions for staff? Look to my right. John? Noah? Question? No questions? Christine, no questions? Okay, no question?
Yeah, just a question regarding the education and outreach. Who is responsible for implementing that? Because this is obviously a change in habits and process for people, whether it's a business or a resident. So is that something that IDWMA and the garbage company would be implementing, or will that be a partnership with the city as well?
It's something that the garbage company would be handling, but we certainly would have some collaboration with that through our Facebook page, through the city website. So it can be done both ways, but the majority of the outreach would be from the garbage company directly to their customers. And I don't know if Bruce has any additional information on that, if it's different.
Okay. Public comments not open yet. I'm just going to go through a couple of things. Thanks. Since this is a 218 vote and process, I just go through a couple of items for the record. And so just to declare that the public hearing is open to consider and propose garbage service interim rate adjustments. And Madam Clerk, do you have any customers or property owners that received notices of protest to this hearing?
Yes, as Janine said, notices regarding the requested rate increase were mailed on August 28th to all property owners and customers.
Thank you. And then have the written protest filed with the clerk, and are there enough protests for a majority protest of any of the fees in question?
The clerk's office has received 2 written protests thus far. At this time, there are insufficient protests with respect to the interim garbage rate increase for them to count as a majority protest of the parcels and customers subject to the fees.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And for members of the public that want to speak tonight, I just reminded we have 3 minutes for public comment. All public comments can be addressed to council. Staff will not respond to public comments during the hearing. Staff may respond to public comments collectively after the close of the public hearing. if asked by council. If you want to file a protest, it must be in writing and must follow the rules for submission of the protest. Those rules are available here with our city clerk. No written protests will be taken after close of this hearing. Now, is there anyone present who wishes to address council on the matter or wishes to file a written protest at this time? Prior to close of this hearing, please come forward. You may file them now and come to public comment to speak. Public comment is open for those who'd like to come forward and speak to this item. Seeing none for public comment, we'll close public comment and bring it back to council. Thank you. And then let's go back into any other discussion or items with council. John, you want to lead us off on this?
Sure. Being your representative to IWMA, I was present during the evaluation process for the three presenters that initially presented and heard the compo gas presentation, obviously, as well. If you ever had the opportunity to get your kids involved in science and with a little science project, now's the time to do it. Anaerobic, oxygen-free decomposition is absolutely amazing in terms of the science that's being used, not only to prevent the accumulation of something that's detrimental to our environment, but also to generate something that is beneficial to the environment. And so this process has been in the Netherlands. I believe that's where it originated for a long time. And I'm very supportive of it. We looked at a 10-year versus a 20-year bond. The cost differential was, in my mind, very significant. It was 20%. It was $32 a ton for a 10-year agreement versus $56 a ton for a 20-year agreement. Therefore, we agreed on a 20-year contract with Compo Gas, and I believe that's helped keep the rates down. So I'm highly supportive of this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. Noah?
Yes, thank you. And I am also very supportive of this. It's required. The state action is forcing us in this direction, but I think it's for good reason. And knowing that our current practice is taking a valuable resource and turning it into a hazardous waste that's very expensive for us to manage, and also creating serious environmental impacts through methane gas, which, as was pointed out in the staff report, is 34 times approximately more damaging to our atmosphere than CO2. So I see this as probably one of the most substantial environmental initiatives that we can obtain here in the near future, and has been long needed. I'm really happy that it's finally before us. I think this is good value and investment for our community, and I personally intend to keep on home composting. I think that's something that everyone should consider on that scale, because that even has less cost and is something anyone can do on a small or larger scale. But on this big scale, this is probably the only feasible way to accomplish what we need to do, and it's going to have a great benefit for our community.
Thanks, Noah. Christine?
Well, I appreciate the position of my colleagues, and Mr. Heading, thank you for giving us an update from the countywide board and telling us a little bit about how that process, how it came to us tonight, started there, so it's good for us to know. I think it's also an opportunity for people who don't have any space to do composting or don't feel comfortable or consistently can't get through it. It's another opportunity then for us to use, they have that chance and can be part of that solution. So I think it's pretty exciting, and clearly, with two protests, that it shows that either no one knows about it or those who do know, agree with moving forward in this direction. So I think it's exciting, and that's also I'm supportive as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I would concur with my colleagues' comments as well. And fundamentally, it's just good management practices and on many levels. So I'm in support of this, and I would accept a motion to adopt resolution number 6515, increasing the solid waste rates by 3.2% effective January 1st, 2016, provided that there is not a majority protest against such increase.
So moved.
We have motion by Mr. Heading, second by Mr. Smuckler. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. And just by way of clarification, I'm just looking for our city attorney. Are all the T's and dots, everything was copacetic in that? Okay, good. Just want to make sure that we're doing that properly. Thanks for the thumbs.